Wondery Plus subscribers can listen to Crime and Sports early and ad-free right now. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
In the depths of an Atlanta forest, a clash between activists and authorities ends in tragedy. I'm Matthew Scher, and on my new podcast, We Came to the Forest, we expose the hidden truths behind a shootout that left one activist dead and countless lives forever changed. Binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest ad-free on Wondery Plus.
Hello and welcome to Crime and Sports.
Yay!
Oh, yay indeed, Jimmy. Yay indeed. My name is James Pietragallo. I'm here with my co-host.
I am Jimmie Whisman.
Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We are extra super excited, as always, to be here today. We have a crazy episode. Brain damage as far as the eye can see. Just
terrific.
Football player who then became a wrestler. So you can't get any more brain damagey than that. And when you hear what he did later and what he keeps doing, you go, holy shit, this guy better have brain damage, because otherwise he's the dumbest man I've ever heard of in my life. Like, it's one thing.
No excuse.
No, it's one thing to do shit and to get caught for it. Okay, you did it. You tried to get away with it. You got caught for it. But then to repeatedly do the same thing that you keep getting caught for is not a bright move. And it's not like DUI or anything like that. It's not like he's an alcoholic or anything like that. It's something that you don't need to do. We'll get into it, but it's crazy shit. What a wild episode this week. But I just want to thank everybody, first of all, for your reviews. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. That purple icon helps a lot. We don't know why, but it drives you up the charts. So please do that if you haven't done it yet. It helps the show. Thank you so much if you have done it. Also, head over to shutupandgivememurder.com right now for everything about crime and sports, and of course, small town murder, which if you're not listening to small town murder, they're messing up. Back me up here, Jimmy.
Pull your finger out of your ass. Let's go.
Let's do this.
It's a great show, goddammit.
It's funny as hell, and we did the last week, you can start with that. Last week's episode we did about carnies who are in a cult. Basically start their own little satanic cult, these carny late teenagers, and really bad stuff comes from it. So it's a really crazy episode. Check all that out at Small Town Murder. Also listen to P.S. I Hate This Movie, because I got to watch goddamn Twilight this week. The last Twilight. God help me. So
terrific.
Check all that out, and also get your tickets to live shows. We have live shows all through 2022. Crime and Sports live shows, I believe there's a couple tickets left for Tempe, but I know the Nashville one, I believe, is sold out. So get all those tickets, do that. And what you really want to do is get on Patreon. Patreon.com/crime and sports is where the good stuff is at here. This is like the marrow inside of the bone. It's where all the concentrated goodness is, and we really go all out. Basically, this is a free show and we put everything we have into it. If you give us a dime, holy shit, we feel really obligated to put on a hell of a show. So check that out. They're good stuff. This week's episodes, nothing different. We have first the Atlanta Gold Club scandal, which I don't know if you guys know what that is, everybody, but that is a big strip club in Atlanta who was providing more services than stripping, we'll say, and way more to very high-profile people. And many, many, many professional athletes were called to the trial to testify and had to give detailed accounts of exactly what services were rendered to them. Patrick Ewing was big in the middle of it. There's a lot of very famous people in here, so we'll check that out. It's great. And then for the small town murder bonus, which you get access to as well, because you get access to everything there on Patreon. But we are going to do the kind of a little bit like the Sons of Sam documentary that's out now. It's the 4-parter where the guy is hypothesizing that he was part of a bigger cult and he was only part of the whole thing, and more people were involved in the murders and all this type of shit, and he just kept it, didn't say anything about it for 50 years. Or with that's connected to this book that the guy wrote, which is like 25 hours long on Audible, and I had to read that. So It's called The Ultimate Evil. And
You went through the whole thing.
Oh, I read the whole thing. So we're gonna
dedication.
I'm gonna spew out all of this. Whether Son of Sam was in a cult or just some guy wandering around the Bronx and Queens and Brooklyn at the end shooting people. So we'll check all that out. Patreon.com/crimeinsports. And if you do that, you're a producer as well. So Jimmie will mispronounce your name at the end of the show brutally while trying his best to get it right. So yeah, do that. Patreon.com/crimeinsports. If you just want to be a producer and get a shout out, very easy to do that. You can do that on PayPal using our email address, crimeinsports@gmail.com. There we go. Let's do this, Jimmie. Let's get into this with Jeffrey Scott Gaylord. So him. Yeah, that's and we giggle because, we were children. And when in the 80s, when this guy wrestled, by the way, it's not a great time to have the name Gaylord in the 80s because for some reason in the 80s, the main thing that a little boy would do to insult his friend would be to call him a gay slur of some kind.
Right.
And it's weird because, even into high school where, there were kids that were gay and you knew they were gay. I mean, I'm sure they were gay when they were younger, but whatever, you knew they were gay. You never called those kids that name because that would be...
No, they weren't the ones.
That would be mean. Then you're just being an asshole, and it's like you're just attacking someone that's fucked up. But your friend who thinks he's tough and macho, you call him gay slurs like crazy back then for some reason. And it wasn't to insult the gay people, it was to insult him because you knew that was insulting to him. It's a very
his
strange
least
time.
Desired thing to be.
For him, that would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
So you play on that when you're younger and, whatever. So to me, though, honestly, while kids are throwing that back and forth when I was a child, Gaylord was the best one you could be called.
In the hierarchy, it's tippy top.
I'm Lord of the Gays. Fine. That's my insult. Great. Lord of the Gays.
Comes with a robe.
Yeah. I picture
comes with a crown and a scepter and all
that. The pageantry that would be in the Lord of the Gays. It's a lot of pageantry, I'm figuring. I feel like this would be it'd be a lot. I'd like it, I think. You'd have
they get to wear a lot of fur.
Ornate. It would be fun, I think. Yeah. So that's fine. But that's the thing. But you don't want people his goal was to get people to chant Gaylord at him in an arena, I guess, in the 80s, which is an interesting thing. But we're more mature. We won't laugh too much at Gaylord there. So, because it's now I haven't heard anyone call anybody that in 25 years. So that's probably for the best.
And really, Meet the Fockers, or Meet the Parents, I guess, it was the first one that really exhausted that, didn't they?
Yeah.
At the end, his name was Gaylord Fokker.
That's right. They went on
they just kind of beat the Gaylord joke into the ground.
That was a lot. They killed it dead. Yeah. There you go. They killed it dead, buried it with a shovel by the light of headlights, like in Goodfellas. So
pounded the dirt afterwards with the back of the shovel.
That's it. There we go. That should do it. I'm going to plant some grass over it so nobody sees it's there. So our guy here, born on October 15th, 1958. He is born in Columbus, Ohio. I don't know a lot about his childhood. I'll be very honest. Before the age of 15, I don't know much. And he's from Columbus, so there's really, I don't know, Ohio, what fun story can I make up of? There's no... I don't know if there's bears there. I don't know what the fuck to make up. So it just doesn't work with Columbus, Ohio.
He wishes, I'm sure, that you could give him a more interesting backstory.
Yeah, Yuri Bubla grew up in a fucking country that doesn't even exist anymore. So you could say anything and anybody would believe it. But Columbus, Ohio, my lies would be too easily flushed out. So we're not going to do that.
Out,
so he turns out to be a very big guy, 6'3" and 280 pounds.
It's a lot of man.
It's a lot of man. And it's a lot of steroids is what it is, too. I mean, he looks like somebody stuck a bicycle pump up his ass and just, pumped away and until he was about to burst. And they were like, perfect. Popped it out.
I wish that worked.
Don't you? Well, he did it with steroids, though. He was like, just keep pumping it in. I'm going to get bigger strictly by enough liquid in my system at this point. Just jack me with testosterone. He talks about how, once I started working out and dedicating, to getting my body better, I gained 80 pounds of muscle, that. I was 150 pounds and then boom. Yeah, because that's how human bodies work. You just gain 80 pounds of muscle, no problem. It just pops right on your body.
I know lots of dudes that worked out a lot, and not one of them has put on 80 pounds of
80
muscle.
pounds of muscle. Hey, look at this. I'm really getting big, huh? You'd be like, holy shit. Like
bench press. Can you believe it?
Yeah, you can tell. I mean, no matter how hard you work out, your body has limits, and people's bodies have limits. And look at Hulk Hogan. Look at picture Hulk Hogan 1990. Look at that picture. Then look up Hulk Hogan 1993, and they look like a different human being. And he's still a humongous 270-pound man. If you saw him in real life, you'd think his biceps could just crush my head. Like they're that fucking strong. But compared to gassed up Hogan, he looked skinny and sick. Like even though he was jacked still like crazy.
He looked sick.
He looked sick compared to old Hogan.
Urban Commando looks sick.
He looked like, oh boy, look at Hulk. Hulk's got the cancer. He's not looking good.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to make it. Must be in his prostate or something. Look at him, I think. It's got to be somewhere in there.
Was that the movie? Was it Urban Commando? Was
Suburban
that the one that
Commando.
He did? Suburban
He was all
Commando.
jacked in that. Mr. Nanny was the one he was like.
There you go.
He was all slimmed down in that one for Mr. Nanny.
That's Svelte Hogan.
That's Svelte Hogan, where you could see it in his face. Like it's not even his arms. His face totally changes because he doesn't have that swole, Barry Bonds head.
His motorcycle, the handlebar mustache has ripples in it when he's not fucking jacked up.
Yeah, absolutely.
When he's jacked up, it's just a big fucking ball of tuft on his face.
His face is just puffed out, and it goes down like 2 sizes when he's off cycle, and just doesn't work. So Jeff here, he played high school football. That's where he got started here, playing high school football at Shawnee Mission South in Overland Park, Kansas. Yeah. I think he grew up in Kansas from what I understand, because he was 15. I found 2 famous people who went there to this high school.
Yeah.
Rodney Peete.
Dennis Rader.
Dennis Rader, absolutely. Yeah, he went there. All of his victims, too. Rodney Peete, the NFL quarterback and husband of Holly Robinson Peete there. Him, and then comedian Rob Riggle went there as well.
Yep.
And
terrific guy.
Here he's a nice guy, I think.
Very funny.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. Yeah, I always hear he's very nice. And I think was he on The Daily Show? He was on The Daily Show, I think, right? Wasn't he?
I don't know.
I think he was.
I don't know. I don't know what he's done apart from that movie where the Hangover.
Oh, there you go. That's right. He's
apart
in that.
from that, I don't know what he's in. I just know that I've seen his roasts, not so great, but his comedy is top notch. Very funny guy.
Now, don't quote me on this, even though I'm saying it into a microphone and I'm going to put it out to hundreds of thousands of people. But I believe, I could be completely wrong. I believe Rob Riggle he was in the military. And then he went to The Daily Show after that because he was doing comedy and he was in the military. And then he was like,
that makes sense.
Yeah, he was like a military correspondent or some shit on The Daily Show or something.
He does
like
have
that.
a very straight delivery and a very regimented style. I could see him being in the military.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So either way, it's possible, or I could be talking about a completely different human being, or I could have taken the lives of several different people and melded them into one and completely made the whole thing up. So I'm not sure which one of those 3 options it is.
Gaylord doesn't get an origin story, but Rob Riggle does.
He does, a big one. So I know more about him.
We made an American hero.
We made him
whether
something.
he likes it or not.
Maybe. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe he's like, I went to community college. I did some open mics and liked comedy.
Worked at a bowling alley.
Just to pass the time. I worked at a fucking Sam Goody in the 90s, and now here I am. So Jeff Gaylord here, Jeff said he started lifting weights at about age 15. He said he was 6 feet tall, 150 pounds at that point.
Okay.
So 15.
That's a skinny fella.
Yeah, he could bench 210 pounds when he was getting going. So that's still
Very impressive.
Pretty strong for a guy there. About 1.5 years later, though, 18 months, he went from benching 210 pounds to 450 pounds in a year and a half.
You do something every day. Eventually, you're going to get better at it.
Come on, man. That's, I mean, I'm not a gym guy. Like, I'm not a guy who's like, I'm going to push and see how much weight. I don't know if people out there are. You could tell me. Is that normal to more than
500
double
days.
To your bench press in 18 months to go from 210, not even double, like, oh, you were only doing 80 pounds and you're doing 160. To go from 210 to 450, that's a huge jump, is it not? It's so much weight. That's like that's an offensive lineman extra that you can lift now. That's Really?
Did he just have like a creatine enema just pumping into him?
What
Is
the
it
fuck?
constantly?
I used to be able to bench press a cornerback, and now I can bench press a cornerback and an offensive guard together. Like, that's insanity. He said that he religiously developed his body. It was as a religion to him. By the time he gets into college, he can run a 40. He runs the 40 in 4.6, which is big, which is really fast for a big guy back then. And also, he's on roids.
Right.
He says, this is a quote from Jeff, quote, "The first day I put on pads, playing pro football was my goal. That's all I ever wanted to do." So keep that in mind. Yeah. All he ever wanted to do. He did say he had a shitty attitude at times. He said he didn't have the best attitude with people, and that was a problem. He said, quote, "I started weightlifting in the 9th grade. I was such a brat, nobody wanted to have anything to do with me." So,
a brat.
But he said, weightlifting just changed his whole thing, changed his whole life.
Yeah.
He went from being a brat to bench pressing 450 pounds and being a stand-up guy.
In 18 months.
In 18.
That's
how it works. Yeah. Hey, what the fuck, Jimmy? What do you think here? How do you think this goes? So,
I suppose.
Oh, man. He, as a sophomore, he was small, and then that's when he really upped his game there. And in about that same year and a half, he went from 6'1", 150 to 6'3", 215. So he gained 65 pounds of muscle in a year and a half, he said.
And a few inches.
And a few inches, which, I mean, the height, whatever, that happens from 15 to 16. But that's a lot of weight. That's just a lot of weight. And all muscle, too. I mean, we're talking, he didn't just, he's filled out. He's bench pressing 450 pounds. This is silly. He says, quote, He's a behemoth. He's a behemoth, yeah. He said, quote, "I used to be really skinny." Well, yeah, I would be skinny. So 1976, he's playing in school here in high school. And I found this article in the paper there from Kansas City, talking from September 26th, 1976, talking about how his team got burned for 249 yards rushing. And it says, which brings us to the reason why the South defense was burned on that one play or on any of the others that helped the Indians roll up 249 yards rushing on them, Jeff Gaylord. Or rather, the absence of Jeff Gaylord. Oh, boy. Look at that. He sat out the game with strained ligaments.
MVP?
Yeah, he's a badass.
Strained ligaments?
In his neck. Strained neck ligaments. So he decides in his senior year that he won't play in the All-Star game. There's an East-West Shrine game going on, and he won't play because he's already committed to college, and he doesn't want to play, basically. He visited a couple colleges, but he decided on Missouri is where he wanted to go. So the Tigers, Missouri Tigers, he's going to go to there. Mizzou. Now, he goes to a banquet at the end of high school, and he said this was one of his low points where he said he really needed to realized that he needed to change the way he is from this. It was a big sports banquet, I guess, that they have in high school if you do that sort of thing.
Right.
All the coaches and the cheerleaders and all the football players are there and all the parents. And he says, quote, "Then a coach got up and said, 'Jeff Gaylord will be only a marginal player in college.' That made me a little mad." Well, yeah, it's a celebration. He's like, yeah, you're not going to be that good in college, he said in the microphone in front of his parents and cheerleaders. That's pretty fucked up.
Wow.
He said that, the coach, said that he was just kind of, he said, quote, I don't know that I said he would be a marginal player, he said. I said he would be limited by himself. The chances of him playing were marginal because of his attitude. There was never any question about him physically. Well, obviously not. He's fucking gassed to Mars. So physically, yeah. But he's that good, but instead he actually, his attitude apparently, quote unquote, is a problem. So that's going to keep him from success. So he goes to Missouri. He redshirts his freshman year while he's there, and because he messed up his ankle pretty bad, so they ended up just redshirting him, and he really didn't do much. So 1979 comes around, and he's going to try to get into the mix of things. Missouri goes 7-5 this year, which isn't bad. Their bowl game they go to is the Hall of Fame Classic, where they beat South Carolina 24-14, and He had a problem, though. He didn't play this year really much because he was driving one night and fell asleep while he was driving home. Not good. Yeah. And his car plunged 30 feet off an embankment. He just drove right off like a turn, and he just kept on driving like Chevy Chase in Funny Farm. He just kept
like a cartoon.
Yeah, just kept driving.
Or that,
off.
Yeah.
Just right off the deal.
Yeah.
He suffered a broken sternum and cracked ribs.
I'm sure.
And all sorts of cuts and bruises. And between a sternum and ribs, imagine how shitty it would be to breathe. Just imagine how terrible that would be.
Or do anything. Moving. Looking left or right.
Horrible to eat, breathe, cough. Oh, if you had to cough or sneeze, God forbid.
Christ.
Holy shit.
You imagine, if you've got allergies, that would be a miserable spring.
You're in deep shit. So they said this put his development behind, but he still ended up playing, though. That's the thing. He still came to practice in a way well ahead of when doctors said he should have and all that sort of shit, which one thing that steroids are good for is healing injuries.
Yeah.
Very good for healing injuries.
They help.
So, yeah.
Really, yeah.
1980 Missouri Tigers, they go 8-4 this year, and this is a year he isn't expected to do shit, and he ends up being a starter this year. Ends up busting into the starting lineup when he's, expected to be a reserve because they don't know anything about him. They go to the Liberty Bowl that year, and they lose to Purdue 28-25. So there's that. He said that, he's a lot better this year. He said, quote, "I matured." Okay, well, that makes sense. So much of football at this level is mental. You have to know your assignments so well that you instantly react when something occurs in a game. In the past, I didn't know what the coaches wanted. I always felt I had the ability to play if they'd give me a chance. Well, no shit. Yeah, he said, "I've always had the size and strength." At this point, he's bench pressing 520, by the way. When he's
get the fuck out of here. What position does he play?
He's a linebacker. He plays. He's pretty versatile, though. He plays some nose tackle. He plays linebacker. Yeah. They can stick him on the line. He's a big guy.
Defensive monster. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big guy that can clog up a hole. He said, but it's more than that. You have to want to be a football player. I've always lifted weights to be a better athlete, but it's knowing the strategy, certain blocking techniques to do the job. When I was a linebacker here, it never hit me about the drops in certain areas. I just started realizing what they wanted. So he kind of had an epiphany there of, the coaches want me to know my fucking playbook and stuff and know where things are going.
Right.
Fair.
Because you don't get athleticism in the fucking gym.
Yeah.
That's where you hone it. That's not where you get it.
Well, in high school, you can just out-physical everybody. If you're a big giant, you're going to be a Division I college star. In high school, you don't even need techniques. You're just mowing people over, shoving them to the side. They're just they're not on your level.
Imposing your will.
Yeah, it's men among boys at that point. And in college, though, everybody's that big and that fast. And in the NFL, everybody's that big and that fast. So you have to actually know what the fuck you're doing at that point. You can't out-physical anybody.
Right.
I don't know many NFL guys who they just say, like, you know what, you're such a force, just do what you want. Never mind the playbook. Like Lawrence Taylor, they did that with. Reggie White could do what he wanted.
But even that.
Like two guys.
Every Sunday was an exhibition of Lawrence Taylor's talent more than just his size and
he was only
aggression.
230 pounds. He was just speed.
The athleticism. He could get so low.
Speed,
it was crazy.
Speed and pure fucking nastiness. He was nasty. Yeah. They always say, like, him and Reggie White, they're like, if Reggie White had Lawrence Taylor's attitude, Reggie White would have 300 sacks because he's a physical beast, but he's too nice of a guy, whereas LT wanted to crush you and then step over your fucking Adam's apple on the way away from you. He wanted to destroy you. He was meaner. So 81 comes around. Now, before the 81 college season, though, we have a crime in sports first. Every once in a while, we have a guy never did this before. We have one of those. It happened. The CIS first, everybody. He's arrested in August of 81. And guess what he's arrested for? I'll give you just take three guesses what he's arrested for.
Trafficking steroids.
No, we've had that. Plenty of it.
Locker room rape.
Nope, I think we've had that too.
Have we?
Male stripping.
Coach rape.
Male stripping.
What? That's illegal?
Hey, well, when your dong comes free, it is. That's the problem.
Okay.
Apparently there was some women that tore his clothes off on a stage. back then,
That's his fault?
in the 80s, there was some, remember Betty Lou Beats? Remember that story? Didn't she get in trouble for that or some shit? She was dancing and her tit came out or something. They arrested her for it in small-time murder.
Yeah, but if somebody tears your dick out, that's not your fault.
That's the thing. It's a wild story. So he said that no one would have ever known what he was doing if he wouldn't have gotten arrested. That's the thing. None of this would have been public.
Thinks he's the kid from summer school.
Yeah, he was just doing it on the side. But he apparently, I mean, he's a big guy with a jacked physique. And in the 80s, male stripping for women was a huge thing. It was so big. Chippendales were like, they were like a Fortune 500 company. They're like insane. Right. Like you got just,
It still is, James. The Thunder Down Under has a residency in Vegas. It's crazy.
Absolutely. But back then it was like every little town would have like Chippendale night. And it was like it was the first time like it was like acceptable socially for women to be like, I'm going to go see some dick tonight. And you know what I'm saying? Everyone was like, you go, girl. It was the first fucking time in history that was okay. So they're just, it was very, it was out there. So he ended up.
Ladies' night for that, though, is called the male review, whereas dudes just are like, I'm going to go see some strippers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Women are so much more classy about seeing a dick.
Women do it with friends, and they like see the dick and they yell to each other, and they're like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
Men just leer. Like, even if they go with friends, they're not talking about it. They're all just leering, like in a gross fucking way. They're all... like it's like the beginning of The Accused all the time in a strip club. It's disgusting.
And that little bar around the stage is called Perverts Row.
I could see that. Yeah, that makes sense. Who wants
everything
to sit?
About
I got to be right next to it.
Everything about men seeing naked women is disgusting, whereas women are just much more classy about being disgusting.
Let's not say classy. They're going, woo, come over here. They're not classy. They're not classy. It's just
their behavior isn't classy.
It's less sexually aggressive in terms of if everybody just turned around, I'd rape you. That's the look on every guy's face in a strip club, and it's creepy. If I could just slip it in, I'd do it. Whereas a woman would be like, I don't know. It's just a different. Men are gross when it comes to that. We're disgusting. We have way grosser thoughts. They're solitary, dark, creepy thoughts. Whereas a woman, it's like, woo, swing a dick at us all, and we'll laugh and drink our Franzia.
And the words describing the behavior is so much more, I don't know, deserving of respect. Whereas dudes are just fucking filthy about it.
Oh, they're gross.
Hey, we go back in the champagne room, you can show me your pussy.
Yeah. Well, for women, it's a fun thing that they go do once in a while with their friends. For men, it's like there's guys who go to the strip club to eat lunch, like on a daily basis. You know what I mean? Like, they're just,
yeah.
It's different. It's different. It's a lifestyle for guys. For women, it's a night out once a year with the girls. It's, just a different thing.
That's what it is.
So,
Tara got married. Let's go do this.
Yeah, she's getting married.
Like,
yeah, let's put inflatable dicks on our heads and go watch these guys. Whereas dudes, it's just a
guys
thing
go
doing.
They're like, I'm here because I'm married.
Yeah. I stopped at the strip club on the way home from work. That's what I mean. There's not a lot of ladies saying like, I'll be home a half hour late and being like, I stopped at the males. I just needed to see some balls. I don't know what it was. I just really had to see some balls tonight to get me through the night. I couldn't go home and look at my kids unless there was some balls in my face. I just couldn't do it. It's just less rare, or it's more rare. That's all. Less common. Just less common. So apparently this was in a Des Moines strip club. Always, Des Moines. Jesus, Des Moines, get it together. Yeah. No, we don't know. So he was in there. Yeah, he needed some extra money, and there was a strip act, and it had professional dancers. Now, Jeff said, quote, he thought they were, quote, a little skinny, all the dancers. They don't bench press 520, these guys. So,
Right.
He said, I just told them I was a professional and that I'd done it before. So he just lied and said that. He painted his body green and billed himself as the Incredible Hulk because at that point, the Hulk, I think, was still on TV or it just went off TV. So he painted his body green and he was the Incredible Hulk that whose cock you can look at, I guess. I don't know.
Very funny.
Very funny. He says, quote, I guess I was such a different body type from the other guys that it made an impression. The other guys were a lot better dancers, but I had the body. He just loves his body, man. He says, though, at the end of the act, he was in a G-string. That's his closer there. Here, check this out. He said a young woman jumped on the stage. Yeah, we'll see what's the cherry on top. Apparently, a young woman jumped on the stage and started, kind of being on him and doing all this shit, which he said a few minutes later he was arrested. So there was that, because they said he was involved in some kind of public sex act or whatever, because he was dancing on this woman on the stage. So I don't know what the laws are in Iowa in 1981, but I can't imagine they're that loosey-goosey when it comes to sexual shit. So
yeah,
makes sense.
Especially when it comes to very giant green men.
Yeah, that's hilarious to get arrested naked and green and jacked like that. What a weird thing to... You're going to go to jail in a G-string with your entire body green. Everyone will avoid you, I'll say that much. Because you're so big, they'll be like, oh, God, he's going to fuck me, I think.
What did that big fella do to get in here?
Oh, no, I'm going to have green paint in my butthole. I don't want that. I got to get away from this guy. So he said instead of paying $400 or $500 for a lawyer, he just pled guilty and just paid a $50 fine. That's all it was. So he got it over with. So that's why it's on his record and people are talking about it. He said it was great, man. 300 chicks were yelling, "We want Hulk. We want the Hulk." So they're... Bring him out. They get aggressive, but in a group. It's very strange. Like,
oh my.
You feel like, they're all going to just attack me at once.
There's nothing, yeah. I don't know that I would be more afraid of 300 people in a mob than horny women.
It's like physically, I've been around like aggressive women like that are like, oh no, I'm going to, I'm going to do this with you. And
you're going home with me. Right.
You're like, thank God you're not like have the strength of a man. I really appreciate that you're 120 pounds because I feel like I would be in trouble otherwise. Like, I'd be in a lot of trouble. You're very aggressive.
Yeah.
So he says what ended up happening, quote, about 10 girls rushed up on stage and helped peel off your clothes. I guess that's how it would work. He said, the girl in the front row pulled my G-string. I just let it go for a few seconds. There were lady cops in the audience, undercover. I had to pay a $50 fine. So they pulled it down, and he just swung his dong back and forth there and was like, yeah, you want that? All right, cool.
Have you ever gotten a message out of the blue? Maybe you ignore them. Or maybe you end up in conversation. Maybe they tell you about an amazing offer.
I can really show you how to make some money.
And maybe that gets you into a lot of trouble. But this isn't a story about people like you, the people receiving these messages. This is a story about the people behind the messages, on the other end of the line. Thousands of them, working in a microcity built for scammers. From Wondery, the makers of Dr. Death and Kill List, comes Scam Factory, a new series about survival at the expense of others. Follow Scam Factory on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Scam Factory early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
Behind the closed doors of government offices and military compounds, there are hidden stories and buried secrets from the darkest corners of history. From covert experiments pushing the boundaries of science to operations so secretive they were barely whispered about. Each week, on Redacted, Declassified Mysteries, we pull back the curtain on these hidden histories. 100% true and verifiable stories that expose the shadowy underbelly of power. Consider Operation Paperclip, where former Nazi scientists were brought to America after World War II, not as prisoners, but as assets to advance U.S. intelligence during the Cold War. These aren't just old conspiracy theories. They're thoroughly investigated accounts that reveal the uncomfortable truths still shaping our world today. The stories are real. The secrets are shocking. Follow Redacted, Declassified Mysteries on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Redacted early and ad-free right now on Wondery Plus.
You're not allowed to do that. He said, there were lady cops in the audience. They arrested me right after the show. He said they watched the show, though, so that's pretty fucking funny. They watched the show.
Well, they have to watch because that's how they get their evidence.
That's like a vice cop.
They know what happened.
Yeah, but that's like a vice cop going to a lady on the street and go, well, I had to get her to blow me before I knew she was serious. I mean, she agreed to it. She said $50 she'd blow me, but until her dick was actually, her lips were actually wrapped around my cock, I didn't know if it was maybe not serious. So I had to finish the whole thing out, you know?
There's a freedom of speech in this country. I got to get the act delivered.
Yeah, to completion. Yeah, I had to. That's the only way. Otherwise, is it really a blowjob or is it just kind of playing around? It's, you know, it's nothing then.
This is why I have 100% conviction rate. That's right.
That's right. That's what I'm talking about. They all know. I mean, she's definitely sucking dick for money. I'm sorry. It's definitely happened. So I got it on film. I put my phone up to it, you know. He said that management started paying him $100 a night for dancing. So he'd get $100 a night, and then he'd get about $50 in tips from the women. So $150 a night, 1981 for a college kid's a goddamn good night.
Not bad.
For a couple hours. He said, no one would have known if I hadn't been arrested. Then I started getting these letters from other cities. They wanted me to come to their clubs because it got publicity. They saw his pictures. He said there's also offers to pose for like adult magazines as well, you know, like Playgirl and shit like that. And he declined them, though. Yeah. And he went back to playing football, and that was that. He did say that
if he hadn't, that's the best fine you've ever paid.
Yeah, $50. That's a lot of publicity for $50. You can't buy that.
Best
for $50.
Investment ever.
Everybody knows who you are. Problem is, it didn't lend itself to football teams and coaches being all that impressed. You know, that's the thing. They're like, oh, well, he should have been studying his playbook, not stripping, is the way they look at it. So he said he got calls from clubs in Wisconsin, New York, other places in Iowa, down south, all sorts of places. Missouri was pissed off, though, and, you know, they didn't put it like in the media guide as his hobby or anything. So he said, quote, everybody thought it was because I got arrested, but it wasn't. He said they thought it was pretty funny mostly, but I was having grade problems. So they left him out of the media guide. And he was like, it wasn't because of the stripping. It was because, you know, I almost flunked out of school. You know, I wasn't only stripping, I was also an idiot. So there was two things to that. When I should have been studying, I was swinging my dick in women's faces. So,
well, when I should have been studying, I was sleeping so that at night I can go swing my dick in ladies' faces.
It's a lot to move your hips like that, you know, to sway them. It is. So he says, quote, from the age of 15 to 16 and a half, I went from 210 to 450 in the bench press. I was a hyper sort of kid. Bullshit. I was a hyper sort of kid who was always rebelling against authority. I guess that's why I always like to lift weights. How was that rebelling against authority? Don't you exercise? I've never heard of anyone telling any kids not to. 16-year-old, how dare you exercise? Stop it. Get in front of the couch. Get a fucking Atari controller in your hand. What is it, 81? Here's a ColecoVision controller and some Cheetos. What are you doing? So, wow.
Have you watched the movie Tron yet? It's going to make you want to play video games.
Oh, you're going to love it. So he said that he talks about playing he talks about playing Nebraska, and Dave Remington is on that team, who's a Nebraska center he's going to go against. And he said, quote, tell him we'll put our combined totals in weightlifting categories and we'll see who comes out on top. That's not really how football's played. If he can block you, it doesn't matter what you bench.
Doesn't translate to points, sir.
No. Well, we did the calculations. This team won 27-24, but if you calculate the defensive line's bench press, it's actually 28-24, so they win. That's not how it works. He said, quote, fucking unreal. He said, quote, pound for pound, I think I'm the strongest football player in the Big Eight. Pick anybody else who weighs 230 pounds, and they're not even close. Not even close. So they asked him, are you going to stay stripping? And he says, no, it's all over with. He says, quote, I haven't done it anymore. It was just one of those things you had to do once. Besides, with a body like mine, and he pointed to himself.
God, he loves him.
With a body like mine, I mean, look at me.
Right.
Touch my abs, will you? Just touch them.
I jerk off in the mirror, obviously.
I mean, if you want to jerk off to me, I understand. Like, I mean, I'm not like into that sort of thing, but like, if you want to just whip it out and jerk it on the floor real quick, I mean, I wouldn't blame you. We'll put it that way. You tell me a part of my body you really want to look at, I'll flex it for you. We'll focus in on it. You can get it over with quick, you know. So, He 81. He's still playing football now. The season starts. He's 8-4. 8-4. The Missouri Tigers are. They go to the Tangerine Bowl. I don't think that exists anymore, does it? I haven't heard of that one in a while.
It's confusing because we already have the Orange Bowl
and the Peach Bowl and the Sugar Bowl, and they play Southern Miss and they win 19-17 over Southern Miss. So he says after that he ends up getting an All-American slot after the 81 season. He's an All-American, which is like a huge deal. Before the season, no one even knew who he was. He was barely a starter. He was not expected to be, not penciled into the All-American team, and it was just a big surprise that he won All-American because he had such a great year because he works out so naturally and religiously and all of his vitamins and everything without any steroids. He's just doing great.
Yeah.
He says, they ask him about it. He says, quote, "Are you kidding? This is wonderful. This is great. This is something I've dreamed of ever since I was a little kid and first started playing organized football. Everybody hopes something like this will happen for them." So he's very excited. He's going to get to be on the Bob Hope Christmas special with the rest of the All-Americans. So that's
all right.
That's a real kind of American institution back then. He said, quote, "It will be a distinct pleasure meeting him in more." Oh, no, Dave Remington said this about Jeff. He said, quote, this is the guy he was talking shit about. "It will be a distinct pleasure meeting him in more pleasant circumstances than the last time we got together. After that game against Jeff, I had a headache for 3 days." That's called a concussion. That's called like a grade 2 concussion, sir. That's why you had that. Now they would be like, they'd be medically testing him and shit. But then it was like, yeah, you're okay now, though, right? All right, good. Holy shit.
Dave, that is frontal lobe damage. That's what that is.
That's from slamming your helmet into his. Jeff is also named Big 8's Defensive Player of the Year by the Associated Press. So best in the conference. This is incredible. He says that he just needed to. He's so happy his coaches gave him time to develop. He went from being a bench warmer to an All-American. He said, quote, "The ability was there. It was a matter of getting time to develop. There were a couple of injuries, and the coaches didn't like my free spirit, non-conforming style, swinging my dick in women's faces in downtown Des Moines. I've
free as fuck.
Yeah. I've got a better understanding now of what the coaches wanted." And he says he still doesn't like conformity, though. Then he says, "My favorite saying is," and this is fucking hilarious. This is not a saying. It's just, I feel like he made it up on the spot. "This is my favorite saying." And he made up a clunky thing. Quote, Do not follow where the path may lead, but go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." It sounds like a really bad motivational poster, but that's what he says. That is make your own
take
path.
The road less traveled in way more words.
and go instead where there is no path and leave a trail, and then do this and then do that, and don't forget your keys. And by the way, look out for animals. So you can
find your way home.
Yeah, and leave a trail behind you. And make sure to put on off because there's ticks in the woods. Like, how many other fucking things are you going to convolute that shit to? Jesus Christ.
That's take the path less traveled. That's carve your own way. He just jumbled a shitload together and then threw, but also drop breadcrumbs so you know how to get home.
So, yeah, you know how it is there. It's his favorite saying. I'm surprised he didn't go, it's not a great saying, but with a body like mine, come on. Who really needs it? You know what I mean? Who really needs to have a saying? So he said that he's proud of the way he became an All-American because he wasn't one of the guys that was on the list in the beginning of the year. He had to come out from nowhere and get people's attention. So he said some All-Americans are due to preseason publicity. It's more of an accomplishment the way I did it. So, yeah. And then they said, well, what about stripping? And he said, I've retired from that career. He's retired. There's articles in the paper here about coaches all around the country are using his story as an inspiration to their bench players, to their second string players, to the marginal players, that you can go from being second string to All-American in 1 year. You can also go from bench pressing 210 to 450 pounds in a year with enough steroids. Anything is possible, kids. That's what he's telling them, basically. Jack up, man. So get yourself jacked. So, yeah, there are all these coaches, this article about how they're, like, putting his fucking image up and going, that's who you want to be like, that guy there. You got to work hard. He says that maybe his stripping helped him get the award. You never know.
I believe it.
He said that turned out to be pretty good publicity. Yeah, the publicity was good because they offered me twice as much money. I was getting $100 plus tips. The money was so good that I did it 3 or 4 other times. So after he was in the paper, after getting arrested, he ended up going back and stripping more. He just didn't tell anybody about it. Yeah, they were offering him more money. So he said people wondered who I was. It was a base, my own hype, an oddity. It's funny. And then people wanted to watch me and see what kind of player this male stripper was. So he said, this guy swinging his cock around, let's see if he can play. Got him some attention. I don't know, not good attention, but publicity is publicity.
It's attention.
Anything's good. Any press is good press. So I'm going to say it right now. He just won All-American. He's a Big 8 Defensive Player of the Year. With a body like this, he's stripping. 300 girls are screaming for him. They're offering him more money to look at his cock. He's painted green. Grace. This is grace, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't get better than this, right?
All-American with a desire to see you naked? Yeah. Grace as fuck.
Imagine how many college girls he's banging. It's going to be... His life is never going to be this good ever again. We'll put it that way. So he ended up playing linebacker, defensive end, nose guard, defensive tackle. He played everything in college, and he says he did that on purpose. He said in high school he even played tight end.
Yeah.
Well, he said, "quote I designed myself to be the all-around athlete who could run fast and jump high. Designed myself." Okay. He's Ivan Drago now. I put it in on the computer.
Tailor-made, yeah.
Tailor-made, babe. He said, "I have used my quickness and got to be as strong as I physically could be. I mean, I'm 6'3", 235 pounds, and when I'm going against guys who are 6'7", 267, that strength comes in handy. I like to hit them and use my quickness. I want to get across the line first and neutralize them. So I jam a needle in my ass and I do that." One of his coaches said that he could play professional football if his attitude improves. Still got a shit attitude.
Okay, so this attitude is a big deal.
It's a big deal for them. Yeah, that's his knock. He's got a shit attitude. He doesn't keep his head in the game. He doesn't study his playbook. He's not as into this as he should be, which is especially in the early 80s. That's a huge knock. They'd go around, "Oh, his attitude. Oh no, that would be, God forbid."
Right.
Like, we've never had a guy who's great at professional football at a shitty attitude. I mean, come on.
Right.
Let's be serious here. So he said, this is his coach, he has the physical ability to be a professional player. He's quick. He's not afraid of getting hit like some of those guys. He sticks his head right in there. He's going to have concussions all day long. He doesn't even complain. Where do you see it, boy? He's going to be...
I don't care about his brain a lick.
He'll forget his address when he's about 55, but that's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
He said, quote, he doesn't mind contact. And they said, Jeff said, quote, when the other team has a good runner like Earl Campbell, you want to hit him as hard as you can. You want to make him not want to carry the ball. You want to hit a quarterback. You want to hit a good quarterback so he will think twice about it next time. So
he's playing against Earl Campbell?
Well, that's what he's saying. If he's in the NFL, he'll be playing against Earl Campbell.
Yeah.
Right now, Earl Campbell hasn't been around. So the 82 NFL draft comes up here. 1982 NFL draft. Jimmie, top pick. You'll never get
Tony Dorsett.
No. Kenneth Sims. Exactly. A defensive end.
Phil Sims' dad?
Nope. 1M. Defensive end drafted by the Patriots and only played in 74 career games, which is not what you want from a number 1 overall draft pick. That is
74. That's
not
5 years,
5
right?
years. Yeah, you want more out of a number 1 draft pick in the NFL here.
Yeah.
Number 2, Johnny Cooks. Chip Banks, the linebacker, number 3. I remember him. Number 4, Art Schlichter, a Crime and Sports alumni.
No kidding.
Definitely go back and listen to the Art Schlichter episode if you can, because that is wild. Number 5 overall, Jim McMahon. The funky QB himself, Jim McMahon. Mike Munchak, Hall of Fame guard, is number 8. Number 10 overall, Marcus Allen. You were close with Dorsett. Marcus Allen. It's another USC guy, isn't he? Yeah, I think so. So there you go. Marcus Allen is there. Then it thins out a little, but a lot of guys like Mike Quick and guys like that here we'll talk about. Round 4 comes up. And Baltimore picked Mike Pagel, which turned out to be a better pick than Art Schlichter there at quarterback. Morton Anderson, a Hall of Fame kicker, he is picked that year by New Orleans, number 4. And 2 picks later, the Los Angeles Rams select Jeff Gaylord. So,
no kidding.
Yeah. So 2 picks before Jeff, there's a guy who played in, 382 games. And I believe is the NFL's all-time leading scorer, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he is second now behind Adam Vinatieri.
Yeah. When he retired, he was definitely number 1. So think about that. Okay, this guy played for 20 fucking years, and Jeff. But 4th round is a place where that's like borderline. Like if you're in the first 3 rounds, you could have a shit training camp. You're still making the team. You know what I'm saying? 4th round is like. It's borderline, but they're still looking at you all as like they have you penciled in to make the team. You have to fuck it up to not make the team. You have to. Right. They'll still cut you if you're a 4th rounder, but you have to someone has to be way better than you. You have to fuck it up basically.
Right.
And then anybody after that, it's like they don't even give a shit. Who cares? They assume you're not going to make the team, and if you make it, they're shocked. That's how that shit works.
Right.
So, he goes 4th round. And, out of the 4th round, the entire 4th round, there are only 3 guys who never played in an NFL game out of the whole 4th round. So most of the guys make the team. So he's signed by the Rams. They signed him, sign him and sign some other guy they had here. And he goes to training camp and is cut at the end of training camp. He is one of the 3 guys. Who from the 4th round who never play an NFL game. He's one of them.
That's hysterical.
So he has the Suge Knight cut by the Rams in training camp deal. Same exact thing here. Same entrance. And it's got to be because of attitude. Like I said, there's no way physically they wouldn't want him. It just had to be this guy just isn't what we're looking for. So he ends up being signed, though, by the Toronto Argonauts of the CFL. As we know, if you fucked up in this country enough in football, Canada is open arms waiting for you. And then if you
cannot wait.
Nope. And then if you fuck up in Canada, where do you go, Jimmy?
Oh, Europe.
Nope. Where do you go, Jimmy?
USFL.
Nope. The Raiders. That's where you end up every fucking time. We've had that several times where guys will crime themselves out of the league. They'll go to Canada. Canada doesn't want them, and then the Raiders will sign them. And you're like, wow, that's wild. That's fucking wild.
At least utilize him for a minute, yeah.
Yeah, so he only plays 4 games for Toronto before he is released. So apparently they didn't like him up there. He didn't have that Canada friendly. Maybe they didn't see his dick.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
should have painted himself green for practices, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he was too friendly.
That's possible. He only had 1 sack in Toronto as well. 1 sack. Okay. So after that, lucky for him, perfect timing this guy has, though, because in 1983, there's another league starting up, so you have another option. It's the USFL.
Yeah.
So he ends up being signed by the Boston Breakers, who are a very weird story, the Boston Breakers. They played in this tiny, it looked like a high school. High schools in Texas have better fucking stadiums than this. It was a total dump, this stadium they played in. It was a disaster. Their quarterback was 37 years old, and it was the first year of the USFL. It was a mess. So he goes, but he plays 14 games as a starting nose tackle for Boston that year. Okay. So that's not bad. There's 18 games in a season, so not too shabby. He has 4 sacks too. So as a nose tackle, those are good numbers. Nose tackle, your main duty is to stop the run. You don't usually see huge sack totals from all the high sack total guys are edge rushers. They're your LT, your Michael Strahan, your going up through the years.
Or they're linebackers
Watt,
in the second rung, right?
Yeah, or linebackers like LT's an outside linebacker, but they're edge rushers basically. If you're coming up the middle, you're not going to get a lot of sacks a lot of times, and so a lot of times your job is to clog the middle. That's your whole job. So in 1984. The Breakers moved to New Orleans. The Breakers will end up playing in 3 cities in 3 years, which is just a fucking mess.
Is that real?
Yeah, they couldn't find a goddamn place to go. Boston didn't really want them. Their attendance was terrible, so they moved to New Orleans, which attendance for everything is not great in New Orleans, except that the Saints are really good. Yeah. It's just it's not a high population of people there. So they end up moving to there, and then they'll move to Portland next year. which is another smaller market. Which
boy, they covered the whole fucking country trying to find a home.
Atlantic Ocean, fucking Gulf of Mexico, and then up all the way to the Pacific Northwest. That's wild, isn't it? So it's not the weirdest thing that happened in that offseason, though, moving a team.
No.
The weirdest thing that happened was entire teams traded for each other.
Oh.
Yeah, this happened, Jimmy. That's how fucking crazy the USFL is. And this is a paragraph
The whole team?
They traded the whole team. Not the players, the teams. Owners traded teams and coaches and everything. So all the coaches and personnel that were on one team now were all the coaches and personnel of another team and vice versa. They just traded entire teams. Here's a paragraph from Football for a Buck, the Jeff Pearlman book about the USFL here. He does a great job of breaking it down. Quote, "It's a confusing trade. The Blitz," this is between the Chicago Blitz and the Arizona Wranglers. Those are the two teams involved here. So the Blitz name will stay in Chicago, but the Blitz players will become the Wranglers in Phoenix. The Wranglers name will stay in Arizona, but the Wranglers players will become the Blitz in Phoenix. That's how it works. They said at a news conference in Phoenix, Dr. Ted Dietrich, former Chicago owner, now owner of the Wranglers, that they just traded owners, everything. They literally were like, "I'll swap you just like your uniforms in your city," basically, is what they swapped. It's the weirdest shit.
Right.
He said, quote, "I believe this is the first time in football history that a franchise with all of its players have been transferred. We are the new Arizona Wranglers, but we hope to carry on the new winning tradition we had in Chicago." Huh? The fuck are you talking about? Basically, from what I understand, the one guy didn't want to commute. He didn't feel like flying to Chicago all the time. So he was like, "I'm not doing this shit. I want to be in Arizona. It's easier for me." So he lived in Arizona. So rather than commute to the games every weekend, he was like, "This is a huge pain in the ass. Can I just trade teams?" That's fucking...
Wow.
That is interesting here.
I can't imagine the fucking... to be in that position, just be like, you know what I'm going to do? I like it here better. I'm just going to trade everything I have for that.
Yeah.
But why?
Imagine if the Cardinals and Bears traded everything. Owners, players, coaches, everything. They're just different, but the same team in the same city, but just a completely different everything, including ownership. That's the weirdest thing in the world. Who do you now root for them?
The owner of the Chicago team lived in Arizona?
Yeah, he didn't feel like flying in for the games. It was annoying, he said. So he'd rather just have the Arizona team. It's easier for him. Okay.
I know it's a write-off and everything. I just don't want to. I don't want to spend those 6 hours in the air.
Yeah, he didn't feel like traveling. He didn't like it. It was a pain in the ass going there, going to see his football team play. Yeah, what a huge pain. On a private jet, he'd come in. It's just too much of a hassle. Okay, so now the in '83,
but he loves being an owner so much that I'm not selling. Jesus, no. I'd rather just move it all here.
Good God, no. So 84, the team goes 8-10 down in New Orleans. They were 7-2 at one point, and then the whole season fell apart. They ended up losing the last 6 games of the season, which is
no,
god awful. And Jeff played the first 13 games and then was suspended for the last 3 games of the season. So he, I don't know what he did, but he gets suspended. So his attitude again is a problem. And he has 6 sacks that year too, which is his best year. Not bad. 6 sacks is pretty good. Yeah. So 6 sacks, and it was suspending a guy while you're in a big losing streak. I don't know, but either way. So they end up moving again, looking for a home from New Orleans. They considered moving to Sacramento and to Columbus, I guess, and there's even talk of merging with the Birmingham Stallions and just becoming one franchise, merging. But apparently they were interested in Portland. It was a decent market. They had a 32,000 seat stadium, so they were like, okay, we could work with that. That's something. And they ended up saying they were doing it. So this is the first time there'd been a team in Portland since 1974, when the Portland Storm of the WFL were there. And so they were into it. They sold 6,000 of their highest price tickets within 12 hours. Like they sold out the whole inner bowl within 12 hours. So people were into it. Portland will come out for shit. They are like, they'll go to stuff, man. You go to see those Trailblazers games for years. They're packed. We go there. We could sell out 2 shows there. They love to go out and do shit. We love Portland. So anyway, they relocate to Portland for the 85 season, but Jeff won't be going along to Portland with them because he is traded. I don't know what the fuck he did to get suspended, but I mean, they just got rid of him, for Christ's sake. He's their starter, and they got rid of him. So that's interesting. He ends up getting traded to the most disastrous franchise in the USFL. Absolute mess. The San Antonio Gunslingers. No, the San Antonio Gunslingers are the fucking dregs. It's just not, it's barely even a team. It's like the Bad News Bears somehow got in a professional league. It's a disaster. He plays defensive tackle for the first 7 games, and then he ends up leaving, and for good reason, as we'll get into why a lot of the players ended up leaving here. They just abandoned the team because they just stopped paying for them. They got stranded places with like their
Jesus,
the check for their flight would bounce, so they were just stuck in cities after games and shit. We'll get into this, man. You want to hear some San Antonio Gunslinger stories?
Oh boy,
let's do this.
The owner
shit.
Just does this to them.
Just does it, man. The team goes 5-13 this year because of this. And they were they were decent the year before. Here's a guy, this is again from Football for a Buck, the Jeff Pearlman book. Here's a quote here by Doug Banks, who's a running back for San Antonio. Quote, "My second practice with San Antonio, they had us doing full contact drills with nothing but helmets on. No pads. There's nothing but helmets on. A guy tackled me and I broke my collarbone in 3 places. A coach comes up to me minutes later and asks whether I can take the bone out and get back early." A coach asked him that. He said, quote, "I went home.
Pull the bone out. You don't need it.
You don't need that. I went home to San Diego and never returned," he said. So He's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. So anyway, they were looking for markets. They wanted to go to like Minneapolis, Seattle, some places like that, but it ended up being San Antonio here. The owner of the team is an oil guy named Clinton Mangus. Now, this guy is fucking crazy. He's like a cartoon. He's a cartoon 10-gallon hat oil man who's just crazy. And I just do it by
crazy.
My gut.
I hear fun.
I just do it by my gut. Well, it's fun unless you're playing football and he owes you money. That's the thing. It's fun unless you need to fucking get paid by. He's one of these multimillionaires who doesn't feel like he needs to pay people. You know, we've heard a lot of these people recently. I don't like that.
Fun.
Oh, well, yeah.
No, but I mean,
it'd be fun if you were his friend, but not if you're his fucking employee.
Yeah.
You know,
no.
like you don't want to work for this asshole.
Him.
So they didn't do like the same background research that the NFL does. The NFL is like they go up people's ass with a microscope when they do ownership
before
shit.
They let them buy something. Yeah,
they did there. He had a bunch of money, and he's willing to put it into the USFL in San Antonio. So like, fuck it, let him do it. This is from his biography here that he had commissioned, I think, Clinton Mangus, that he's, quote, "known throughout South Texas as a man who knows what he wants and how to obtain it. Mangus prides himself on having as many loyal friends as detractors. So, as many people like me as hate me." That's a compliment to him. He's and he's like, he dropped out of school before the 5th grade. You know, he came from
awesome.
He came from shit. He's one of those guys who came from shit.
He's enjoying his money, James.
He first started getting his money. The way he got money was a rich guy stopped at the gas station he worked at and said that, "Do you know where this farm is? I'm going to go make an offer on this farm. Blah, blah, blah. I want this farm," and all this shit. So he was talking to him about it. And he said, "Yeah, sure." So when the guy left, he called the farmer and bought the farm from him, made him an offer that was less than that guy would pay. So now the guy left and he went there, and he said about an hour later he came back to the gas station and he goes, "Man, you're going to deal with me now if you want that farm, and I know how bad you want it, so it's going to cost you." So that's the kind of guy he is. Like, that was his idea of how to get ahead. That's how he started getting ahead in real estate. That was his first real estate deal.
The guy paid him instead of saying, "Well, then hang on to that farm, you fucking dummy."
Yeah, the guy needed he was telling him how much he wanted the farm and how much he was going to buy that farm. And, he was like taking him as a dumb kid at the gas station of, "Do you know anything about that I could use about this farmer to try to get the price down or whatever? Because I'm willing to go this high, but I don't want to," and all that kind of shit. And then, he ended up fucking him. So now San Antonio's the 45th largest television market, which is not ideal, obviously.
Yeah.
And the stadium there, Alamo Stadium, had been built in 1939 and only had 24,000 seats in it, which the rule is you have to have 30,000 is the USFL's minimum rule for a city. So they found a way to get around that, though. The one guy, a beat writer for the San Antonio Express News, said, quote, "It was a high school stadium with a track around it. It was known as the rock pile. The paint was peeling. Rust could be seen in every corner. So it was a piece of shit. It was just a piece of shit old stadium that was left to rot." And,
what, did you put folding chairs on the fucking track?
That's what they did. They brought in 6,000 not on the track, but in this one end zone that was open. There they had, like, you know, those stadiums sometimes have an open. They just filled that with 6,000 folding chairs just to get up to what they needed to have for the rules of the league.
Yeah.
So he said, one of the league's executive directors said, quote, "At the time he was on the Forbes 400 list." This is Mangus. He said that he was the king of the world. He flew up to meet us in this unique aircraft. He had some fancy wheels take him to the office. We did legal checking on him, and he had plenty of money. Then they went down to his ranch. He had a landing strip, a helicopter at the house, all of these imported animals. I'm talking African antelopes. They just ran around like the land was a safari. He's just got this weird, and then he had big plans for the team and the league, and everything seemed so great. So, they were so impressed with him that they decided not to force him to make an initial capital investment. So they didn't even make him put like a bunch of money in like an escrow just to make sure in case you don't pay everybody. You know what I'm saying? Your shit can be delivered. They were like, oh, he's got tons of money. He's fine.
Guy's got fucking antelopes. He'll be all right.
Look at this. They could sell an antelope or two. He could pay all the linebackers. It's no big deal. The director of marketing for the Gunslingers said he seemed to be rolling in money and glamour. He took me on a trip before the start of the season to visit the teams in Tampa and Los Angeles to see how they did things. Well, we went to the Bandits on a Learjet, and then instead of going to California, he decided we should go hunting in Alaska. So we went there, killed some caribou, and came home like it was no big deal. He just decided, you know what, let's not go to California. You want to run up to Alaska real quick and go hunting? Just on a whim. So
that is unbelievable.
He sounds like a fun guy to be, right?
He does.
Like everybody.
He's a goddamn party, James.
That's kind of like the American dream, to be like, you know, people around the world. I don't know if it's the same. Obviously, everybody wants to be comfortable, support their family, all that. But Americans distinctly have this weird thing of like, I'd like to have so much money that I can have weird antelopes running around in my yard and tell everybody to go fuck themselves if they don't like it. It's a weird thing that we all have in us. I don't know what it is.
I want to have so much money I can be hilariously just in the wind with my money. I can just throw shit away.
That's
wasteful. Just hilariously wasteful.
Yes, to make myself laugh, I can piss money away. That's like a weird American thing to do. I don't know if it's like that in like Europe. I don't know or Asia, or I'm not sure if they're the same way. So he hires a coach who is like well past his prime and a fucking disaster. It's a guy named Gil Stanky, and he was a defensive back for the Eagles. He was a head coach in college for 23 years. The only problem is the last time he had coached was 1976, and it was 1983. So he'd been retired.
7 years.
The game passes you by quickly. Football. Right. There's new schemes come up. You don't even know what's going on if you're out of the game for 2 years.
The game's evolved since then.
A few miles from the glass spires of Midtown Atlanta lies the South River Forest. In 2021 and 2022, the woods became a home to activists from all over the country who gathered to stop the nearby construction of a massive new police training facility, nicknamed Cop City.
At approximately 9 o'clock this morning, as law enforcement was moving through various sectors of the property, an individual, without warning, shot a Georgia State Patrol trooper.
This is We Came to the Forest, a story about resistance.
The abolitionist mission isn't done until every prison is empty and shut down.
Love and fellowship.
It was probably the happiest I've ever been in my life.
And the lengths we'll go to protect the things we hold closest to our hearts. Follow We Came to the Forest on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus.
He was hip-hop's biggest mogul, the man who redefined fame, fortune, and the music industry.
The first male rapper to be honored on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Sean Diddy Combs.
Diddy built an empire, and lived a life most people only dream about.
Everybody know ain't no party like a Diddy party, so.
Yeah, that's what's up.
But just as quickly as his empire rose, it came crashing down.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution.
I was up. I hit rock bottom, but I made no excuses. I'm disgusted. I'm so sorry.
Until you're wearing an orange jumpsuit, it's not real. Now it's real.
From his meteoric rise to his shocking fall from grace, from law and crime, this is the rise and fall of Diddy. Listen to the rise and fall of Diddy exclusively with Wondery Plus.
Yes. He also, I believe, had blew one of his fingers off at one point. He had like a half a finger on a couple of his fingers. I know it's similar to you there. He was best known for watching the games from the stands. The games he was coaching, Jimmy. He was coaching a game, head coaching, and he just goes sit in the stands with his wife. He just goes sit up there.
Giant cookie? Yeah, fuck yeah.
I'll get a hot dog. Hold on, I got to take a leak. What are you doing?
It's third down. I got to go get mustard.
He said, quote, the sideline is the worst possible place to watch. That's what he said. You can't tell what the devil is going on from the sideline. I try to sit about 12 rows up where it's high enough that I can see and low enough so it's not too far down to run down to the field. You know, because he's fucking working. He's not in the...
He's got to make a play call.
Oh, my God. At home, I ask a student to save me a couple of seats in the aisle. I sit at about the 20 so I can stay away from the band, and I sit on the student side so I can stay away from the alumni. Yeah, because they're going to talk to you because you're the head coach and you're in the stands rather than on the field where you should be. Can you imagine that?
That's hysterical.
Imagine the Raiders hired John Gruden to come back, and he was like, I only have one stipulation. I'm not going to be on the sidelines anymore. I prefer to watch the game in the stands with my wife. It's just a better view. Like, no.
You know, I've been watching the Super Bowl these past few years, and I see up in the suites all these ex-players are having the time of their lives. That's
weird,
where I
right?
want to be.
That's
up
right.
there
You know
with
what?
food poured in on me.
Matter of fact, I don't want this job, I just realized. I like watching football, but not actually participating in the game. They said he walked slowly.
I want to sit up there with an ex-president and drink beers.
That's all. He said he walked slow. He talked slow. He was just a slow, older guy. This is the best. The defensive coordinator, Jim Bates, said this is the best opening to a sentence. You don't need the rest of it. He said, quote, we didn't use the term dementia back then. ... That's just all you need to know. In other words, he had dementia and didn't know what he was doing.
Right.
They said he would go, hold on. He'd be in a team meeting, and he'd say, hold on, I'll be right back, and he'd never come back. They'd sit there for 45 minutes, and then they go, where's Coach? And they go, he took off 45 minutes ago. And they were like, holy shit, he just forgot he needed to come back and left. He would get lost going to the stadium that he goes to all the time. I'm late. Sorry, I got lost, fellas. They'd be like, what? You work here every day. The fuck are you talking about? He had dementia.
He's also fun.
He's a lot of fun, this guy. That's what I mean. This sounds like fun, this whole mess. If you didn't have to actually depend on it for a paycheck, it sounds great. Now,
this is football major league. That's incredible.
What it is. They said that all the players said that San Antonio was the perfect town to be a professional player because it's big enough to where there's enough people to support a team, but small enough to where you're the only fucking game in town. You're the biggest thing there is because they don't have anything else. So they said, all the players said they didn't pay for a drink, for a meal, for anything.
Really?
They were the gunslingers, and that was it. They said they had a shitload of groupies, basically. A shitload of groupies. He said that one guy said that they, quote, had an invisible all-access pass to most anywhere. Just anything they wanted to do. This is crazy. Multiple members of the gunslingers would snort coke in the locker room openly, just off the benches. Just fucking cutting up lines on the benches. Nobody cared. Nobody fucking cared.
Who gives a shit? Coach is in section 204 right now. Let's just do it if we want.
Fuck does he care? He's up with talking to his wife, eating a hot dog. Jeff Gaylord.
The owner's often the owner's fishing for tuna in New England right now.
Gaylord says, quote, drugs were huge in the USFL. I once went to my coke dealer, got $1,000 bag, tooted it, stayed up all night, and then played. That's just how it was in the 80s in sports. That's why you're getting cut from fucking teams, dude. That's why you're being traded. Why did New Orleans, you think they traded him and suspended him? Maybe that's why. Shit like that. You can't do that. That's not okay. One guy on the team said, quote, "We had one wide receiver who would kneel down and do blow right there. I'd never seen that before. On the sideline, he was doing blow."
Holy shit. Just like off his helmet?
Just like put a little on his fucking finger and do it. He'd do bumps off his finger on the sideline. They said they would do it on the field sometimes, during a break. It's fucking crazy. He says, quote, "A lot of times we'd go party until 4 a.m., then sleep in our cars in the stadium parking lot so we wouldn't miss practice. San Antonio was an amazing town. Amazing. We'd practice until noon, be in the pool by 1, maybe lift later in the day. Then every night we'd wind up at Fizz, which was a dance club. We were the only football team in San Antonio, so wherever it was, yo, it's the Gunslingers. Come on in." So they just used this as their own little party town. Now,
it's hilarious. They stunk, and the town loved them.
They didn't care. They're the only thing they had. And the huge guys, it's easy to tell who they are. They were cheap as fuck. Ruth Mangus, who is Clinton Mangus's wife, she drove a brand new Cadillac, but instead of putting a team decal on the door like she wanted, the team was too cheap to pay for decals. So this is fucking awful. Brand new Cadillac. She cut out the logo from a poster and scotch taped it to the door of the car.
Hilarious.
That's one of the coaches said, think about that. The millionaire wife of the team's owner. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
She's out there stretching out scotch tape across her car.
That ought to hold it. I hope it doesn't rain. Got to replace it. Here's a guy says, quote, I'll give you an even better one. We went back and forth from the hotel to the stadium during training camp on something called the Gunslinger bus. It was an old converted San Antonio public school bus, which they repainted green and put the old Gunslinger logo on it. The driver on the bus was an old guy named Byron, and because the gas gauge on the bus didn't work, he'd have to get out periodically and stick a measuring stick into the gas tank to see what the level was. We ran out more than a few times. Well, no shit.
I'm sure.
Hold on. I got to go fucking Mark the Twain here. Let's do this. And what are you doing? That's fucking bad.
Wild.
One time, Ruth Mangus was bowling. She was a big bowler. She hurt her shoulder while bowling. And I think the team president asked the team trainer or doctor to look her over. And he was in the middle of working on players. So he said, "I'm sorry, I need another 30 minutes to help some players, then maybe I can." And the guy yelled at him and said, "No, you work for Mr. Mangus, do it now." So tell the players to clear out with their injuries. Her shoulder's a little sore from bowling.
Get over there and scotch tape her shoulder.
Jesus. One guy said, that sort of thing isn't exactly a good way to bolster positive feelings from the team.
No.
I would say not. One time, they're on national television. On a big game. Everybody's seeing it, national TV. At halftime, they held a giveaway, a raffle ticket giveaway of a car.
Yeah.
Okay? And the team's public stadium address announcer that worked for the team, he leaned into the microphone and he said, quote, "Tonight's winner of the 1984 Dodge Charger is, oh my God, it's me." So... Booze, boo, boo. If you ever heard Jim Cornette, that's called Wouldn't You Know Who Won the Pony? That's what that's called. The old wrestling thing is we're going to give away this pony at halftime and blah, 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 or at intermission. And then at intermission, you pull the name out and he goes, the winner of the pony is, wouldn't you know who won the pony? It's my son. That would be the guy. And that was like the old Southern, wrestler promoter. Fuck you. Wouldn't you know who won the pony? That's what he calls it all the time. Whenever something like that happens. Well, wouldn't you know who won the pony when something's fixed? So it's me. Turns out he actually had bought a ticket and it was legitimate, but the fans obviously fucking hated it because they're
He should never.
Don't buy a ticket for that.
No.
Fucking idiot.
An 84 Charger, too?
Yeah, an 84 Charger, which was new at the time.
Yeah, but that's like one of the worst cars.
Not a good car. I'm sure he got it for free from one of the sponsors. You know what I mean? So it was it was a brown one they couldn't sell. It's like a brown manual 4-speed. They're like, I don't know, nobody fucking wants this. So the another cheap thing they did that hurt the players, a majority of the contracts in the USFL stipulated that a player had to appear in 3 straight games to earn his full salary. That was one of the weird rules they have. So this wasn't real important because most guys would, over 18 games, play in 3 straight. Otherwise, they'd be on injured reserve probably.
Right.
But Mangus used this as a loophole to not pay people.
That's fucked up.
One guy said they'd play us 2 games, then sit us. That's what they would do. Unless you were marquee, you'd find yourself inactive every 3rd game. Everybody did. So they
that is fucked.
Yep. The USFL teams had active and inactive rosters, and if you were on the inactive roster, you got paid peanuts, but you couldn't be stashed if you were injured. That's how they did it. They couldn't put you. They couldn't make you inactive if you were injured. That was a different thing. That counted as playing a game if you're injured. So this is Rick Neuheisel, who's a big announcer, and he was the. I think he's a coach too. Wasn't he a coach, Rick Neuheisel? He was their quarterback at the time.
I don't know.
He said, "quote
Sure, that's a coach and name."
Yeah, it sounds like it. He said, quote, "We had our quarterback meetings in the GM's office because our space was so small. And one day I opened the drawer looking for a pen, and I saw a list of who they were planning on putting on the inactive list. And he said, I told those guys, you have to get hurt today." That's what he went to practice and said, No, you have to. And for the next 7 weeks in a row, I'd look to see who was about to be inactive, and then those guys would come up with really goofy injuries. They'd make them up. Head bruises, twisted sternums. They started making up shit like that. And the team never caught on.
Pulled kneecap.
Yeah, they didn't know. The team didn't know.
They never caught on.
They never caught on. He said, my God, they were so cheap. That's how cheap they were. They were so cheap. They had terrible artificial turf, and it wasn't. Yeah. They said that they had paint injuries, a lot of paint injuries. Because they're so cheap, they didn't do like the right paint that you're supposed to do. They use standard grade industrial paint. So if you're,
oh my God,
you can't fall and cut yourself on that shit. It's bad for you. So one guy said, a defensive end said, quote, "To be precise, it was an industrial crust, not even a fucking paint." He said they were too cheap, and then they would never have it properly cleaned. The surface, they wouldn't clean it at all. So they said they would get all sorts of skin infections and boils and
gross.
They talked about one time Steve Young had I guess he must have slid. He had a big scab from his middle of his thigh down to his ankle. And he said he would scream in the shower. He had to put a fucking bag over it to take a shower because it was so painful and infected from the turf. And he says, quote, this guy says, "Everyone's spitting on it, hawking loogies on it, and you combine that shit with 100 degrees, it's nasty. I got the worst boil on the back of my knee from being exposed." It's fucking bad. And if you think
Jesus, it's
disgusting.
It's so gross. That's a terrible way to describe it.
Right? Ugh. And just the word industrial crust doesn't sound like something you want to fall on at all, right? No. I don't want to fall on the crust. Now, it's at this time, too, in 85, that the checks start to bounce now. Yeah. All of this, they were still getting paychecks, but now they start to bounce. A player or two would be told, oh, there's a problem. The last couple guys to cash it wouldn't get it, and then it started to be more and more. Rick Neuheisel said it was like Gumball Rally at one point. Like, people would get in their cars and fucking gun it. You could only go to one bank. That's the other thing. There was only one bank you can cash it at. So you had to drive. It was like 40 minutes away to this bank to cash your check. So everybody would race there.
You got a guy in like a fishbowl car, a guy in a hot air balloon.
That's guy going. Guy like in a paddle boat thing across with the water next to him. Fucking one of those Wright brothers contraptions with pedals and wings. It's all going on. Like, that's what he said it was. You had to get there. They said they would leave practice. They'd get their checks and they'd fucking run out of practice to go. They couldn't wait. Fuck practice. I got to get paid. One guy said, Whit Taylor, a backup quarterback, said, quote, "I got paid in $20 bills one game." That's not how they do it in professional football at all.
Somebody went to the ATM for him?
Yeah, he said that was different. Never had that happen before. They said they were jumping in their cars to race to the Frost Bank in the nearby town of Freer. A guy said it was like the Indy 500. Your only chance of getting any money was to beat the rush. One guy, the ticket manager, said, I went for weeks on end without getting paid. I still have checks, signed checks that I couldn't cash. They'd say, here's your check, but don't go to the bank just yet. Hold on now.
Give that one a few days, would you?
It's gotta marinate for a few days, if you know what I mean.
It's really got to mature.
You got to really let it settle in there. The assistant equipment manager said, quote, it was ludicrous. Checks were bouncing all over the place. Somebody in the front office would actually tip off the equipment guys when the checks came in, so we'd rush off the field, run to the office, get the check, and haul ass to the bank and cash it. So in practice, they're like, hey, I need a ball. Where's the fucking balls, man? Where's the equipment guys? They're gone. Oh, that's amazing. Wow. On April 7th of that year, Mangus called a team meeting, and the players, were all around him, and he apologized for the issues and with the bank, and he said he guaranteed full payment ASAP, my personal guarantee. This isn't the company or the team. This is Clinton Mangus telling you I'll pay you out of my pocket if I have to. I don't care, goddammit. In the meantime...
I ain't Clinton Mangus.
That's right. My name ain't Clinton Mangus. In the meantime, he said, everybody go over to the GM there, and he's going to give you a promissory note, quote, 100% guaranteed on my honor. Yeah. On a Texas oil man's honor, so you know what that's worth. So the following payday, checks bounced again. So
every one of them.
Unsurprisingly. And by the way, Jeff left after that. That's when he was done. After that many games. Yeah, that's when the checks started bouncing. He fucking took off. He's like, I could swing my dick around and make more money than this. So, and also he had an in wrestling that we'll talk about. So that's where he ended up going. But we'll talk about this. One time they traveled to Jacksonville for a game, and the players and coaches got off the plane, and Mangus and his executives were all in the front. He said they were greeted at the airport by a fleet of limousines. And one player was pissed and said, look at that shit. They're not paying us and they have limos? What the fuck? And another player said, quote, don't sweat it. They're not probably not paying them either. They were like, yeah, that's a good point. Never mind. They're stiffing those fucking guys
too. Don't worry.
Yeah. Oh, my God. One day, it was a May 11th game, 2 days before they were supposed to play at Orlando. The traveling secretary was sitting at his desk. A guy approached him and he said, we need to get the money for the flight to Florida. And the guy came back with a $40,000 check for Braniff Airways. And it was a personal check from Ruth Mangus's bank account. Not a team check. It was a personal check with bowling balls and bowling pins on it, because that's what she likes. She's a bowler. She said, quote, and the check had images of bowling balls and pins on it. She loved bowling. The airline took the funds, and they took them to Orlando. 2 days later, 8 hours before kickoff, the team had a 10 o'clock breakfast meeting in the Marriott where they were staying, and a phone rang, and the coach answered it. And it was the team accountant on the other end of the line. And the coach said, what's that? What? Everybody was pissed. And he said, you can't be serious. You mean to tell me we might not have a flight back home? So the players are like, what the fuck? Everybody's mad, throwing shit around. And he says, the players are, you need to fucking get us home. What the fuck? People are throwing food at the front of the room and all this type of shit. That's crazy, basically. They said that there was no way home after the game because the check bounced. So they said they were stranded. It was fucking bad. What ended up happening is they had to get the governor of Texas, who was a friend of Mangus's, to call the airline to ask them to do it, and on his, or put it on me, basically. Right. On my word. On my word, take the fucking team home, please. So that's how they ended up doing it, which is...
On my word, we'll get you the money back. Just do it.
It's fucking crazy. So Rick Neuheisel said, I think it was that kind of existence, every day a carnival, which it sounds like it. He said some guys would come and they would say they're not going to play. They'd have meetings. Are we going to practice? Are we going to play? And the coaches would tell them, like, come on, guys, you got to hang in there and do all this shit. And they'd be like, fuck you. I haven't been paid in a month. Don't fucking tell me what to do. So then it was hard to have a practice because you can't yell at a guy who hasn't been paid in a month. Because he's like, fuck you. I'm not running shit. Pay me if you want me to fucking run. Otherwise, I'll go out and play on Sunday. Eat my shit.
The things I do, I do them for cash, and I'm not getting that, so I'm not doing that.
No shit. On one occasion, an arbitrator threatened to release 30 players from their contracts if Mangus didn't make good on their bounce checks. They actually went to an arbitrator. So one guy, the defensive coordinator, said it caused a real divide. How do you play for no money? It was a good point.
Yeah.
He said, you got guys in there, and I'm like, I haven't been paid in 3 weeks. Shut the fuck up, which makes perfect sense. They said with 5 games left, there was all sorts of problems. One time, an airline, they couldn't get to Baltimore until Mangus showed up with a suitcase or with a suitcase of money. Basically, he had to show up with all of it in cash. They wouldn't even take a check from him now at this point. So, yeah, he said, you love the game, but you play to eat. You can't eat without money, as one of the nose tackles said, which is very true. Said it was stressful. I remember one meeting where a couple of the coaches walked in and the players wanted us out. I said, listen, don't think how you vote doesn't affect us too. Emotions got really heated. There were players who were best friends who became enemies. One team executive who signed the checks had an office in a double-wide trailer, and he was like a 70-year-old man. And when players would come, he would climb out of the window in his 3-piece suit and drive away out of the window of a fucking trailer, until one guy came in with a baseball bat at one point, and he got paid. That's what it took. You had to go to the team with a baseball bat, which is fucking crazy.
This is great.
Most of the team threatened to sit out the June 9th game against the Los Angeles Express unless they were paid immediately. It got really fucking bad. In June, Mangus just stopped paying all the franchise's bills. Nothing got paid. Nobody. The players, the coaches, everybody played the last 4 games without getting paid. He kept saying, I'm going to pay the next week, and never paid them. 4 games. So you got guys getting injured for free. You get out a guy who literally has limps to this day for free. Right. Didn't even get paid to get it. That's pretty fucking crazy.
Was there no back pay after this?
No, well, we'll get into that. Greg Fields, who's a great story, Greg Fields. He's a big, crazy son of a bitch. We could probably do an episode on him, honestly. He locked himself inside. He used to play for the Atlanta Falcons, and when they went to cut him, he wouldn't come out of his hotel room. Because, they knock on your door and say, get your playbook, come talk to your coach. He wouldn't come out. So they literally had to get the police to come take the door off the fucking hinges, the police and maintenance from the hotel to get him out of the room, to kick him out.
Yeah.
So that's a weird way of getting...
Coach wants to talk to you. Not today.
Not today. Then...
I'm going to stay right here.
Nope.
Do not disturb, motherfucker.
I'm good. I'm all right. No, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay. But you're... Nope. I'm okay. No, I'm all right. No continental breakfast. I'm good today. Thank you. Then he went to play for the Los Angeles Express of the USFL, and he was cut. Not every team would cut you for this. He got cut for slugging one of the coaches. So, that's... he punched a coach. A big 6'5", 280-pound guy punched a coach, so they cut him immediately, obviously.
In his defense, he did play for the San Antonio Gunslingers, where anything goes.
Well, that was before he got to the Gunslingers. That's why
really?
That's how he ended up on the Gunslingers, was because he punched
blasting a guy.
And no one else wanted him except Mangus was like, I'll take a run on that fella there. I'll take a flyer on him. Sounds like a good guy.
And that guy barricaded himself in a hotel room.
It's fucking crazy. So, by the way, the Gunslingers went 2-9 in their last 11 games. So once the paychecks started stopping, guys just didn't have
the effort.
So Fields was waiting to get paid. So he said, rather than hunt down the guy who climbs out the window, the guy who works for the team, or punching one of my coaches, he said, quote, I told myself, man, I can't take this anymore. I need to do something. So I followed him home. He waited for Mangus to come to the facility and then stayed back and followed him to his house. He said he trailed Mangus until they arrived at his, ranch. He said he parked his Buick LeSabre a couple of streets away. And he said, as the guy walked up to his front door, Fields said he sprinted up behind him and tapped him on the shoulder. Mangus turned. He sees he's 6'7", 265, Fields. He's a fucking monster. And he's got a baseball bat in his hand. A monster with a baseball. He doesn't need a baseball bat, but he has one anyway. Like, imagine Dracula having a gun. You'd be like, what are you doing? Why? You're immortal and you don't need this. He said, quote, hey, Clinton Mangus, don't tell me you're broke, man. You're not going to have me believe that stuff. He said, listen, pay me. I'm going to be a big headache for you. Pay me off so you don't have no big headaches, which is something when a 6'7" huge man with a baseball bat standing in front of you. He said,
and that guy says, do this and you won't have a headache.
You won't have a headache.
I'll do whatever that is.
So now Mangus knew that he punched a coach and all this type of shit. So he said, I'll be right back. He walked in the house. He said he was gone for about 10 minutes. Mangus came back, and he had a thick wad of $100 bills, huge big stack of them. And he says, do you want to sign something? And Fields said, nope, don't worry, I'm not coming back, and just snatched his cash and left. I don't need your fucking receipt. He's $17,000 in $100 bills he gave him. Whoa. 17 grand is what he owed him. The guy said he went back to his apartment, packed his shit up, and drove home to San Francisco. He's like, fuck this place, I'm out of here.
He quit football.
The last way a guy got back at him was, remember the folding chairs? Okay.
Yeah.
24,000 spectators there. They had 6,000 folding chairs. They were blue metal folding chairs. And there was a guy who did the field. His name was Big Chief, and he would unfold all the folding chairs before a game and then stack them all back up again afterwards, one by one. So the seating, it was really stupid. So basically, a couple hours after the lights, everything's gone, everybody's out, this player, Bradley, him and a friend of his rented a truck from Hertz. Okay. Now, this Bradley was owed $27,000 by Mangus. So he knew that he would never get it. So he gave Big Chief a couple $100 to look the other direction and backed the moving truck onto the field. And over the course of 3 back and forth trips, they loaded 6,000 chairs into the truck. He said, quote, I drove them to Fort Worth and sold them for $8 each. The gunslingers never knew what happened to their chairs. So he ended up getting more money than he was owed for them.
48,000?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
Yeah. So that's not bad there. Good shit. So,
yeah.
Not too shabby. The attendance was at 11,721 a game, which is the worst in the league. Very, very bad shit here. Finally, a month after the season, the commissioner offered Mangus to make restitution for the team's debts in 15 days or lose the franchise, and so he didn't, and so the Gunslingers are the only USFL franchise to be revoked. So they fucking pulled it out. So if there ever was an 86 season, San Antonio wasn't going to be involved in it, which is they didn't, though, because then the league folded because somebody wanted to go to the fall for some reason. So, you can listen to plenty of shit on that. He owed his holding company, South Texas Sports, was auctioned off to pay for more than $650,000 in debts related to the team. Players also sued him for back pay, and this ended up collapsing him, the whole deal. And Mangus ended up filing for bankruptcy eventually here. And some of the players still hadn't been paid at the time when they had a 1998 reunion 15 years later. People still hadn't been paid. And no players or staff members that were owed back wages had been paid at the time of his death in 2010. Mangus died.
What a dick.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, yeah, fun guy if you're him, but if you're anyone around him, he's a dick. One time he fucking brought in his landscaper who was he went to high school with the guy, and the guy was a good punter in high school. He was like a 5'7" paunchy landscaper who was in his 40s. And he brought him to the stadium and said, he's our new punter. He was good. This booming son of a bitch can kick a ball. He couldn't kick it any better than anybody else standing around. So this poor bastard had to stand there on the sidelines in a fucking uniform for a couple games, hoping that they didn't put him in because he didn't know how to play. It was fucking crazy. So it's at this point where Jeff goes from football to wrestling. Would you like to see a picture of Jeff at this point in time, Jimmy?
I'd love
it. I'm going to show it to you. Take a peek at that.
Holy shit.
Look at his thighs.
Those legs are hot.
That is not natural. There's never been a leg.
That's the most incredible leg I've ever seen.
It looks like he has it looks like he has a giant mashed potato in each leg. That's what it looks like. His muscles in his legs, or giant baked potato, in his leg. Just a huge one. Fucking huge.
So much leg.
It's a lot of leg. Show me some leg, and he's got plenty to show.
That guy he painted himself green.
Green and took his dick out. With a body like this, the body like mine, obviously.
He's right.
In 85, he ends up making his wrestling debut with Mid-South Wrestling, which turned into UWF later on. Mid-South is Bill Watts. He's the guy who runs that territory. Bill Watts loves a big, tough football player. That's his favorite kind of guy. That's who he wants as wrestlers. Dr. Death, Steve Williams, all those guys. That's his prototype of a guy, because that was him. He was a college football player, so that's what he thinks it should be. Big, tough, some bitch like that. Big,
well, look at that guy, James.
Yeah, he's a big, jacked up son of a bitch, and that's, I think, what he sent out to wrestling places to try to get booked. So they booked him. By the way, for a while, he's going as the Missouri Tiger, Jeff Gaylord, because
Why?
Because they play up that he's a real athlete. They used to do that all the time, and Bill Watts was big on that shit. Like Steve Williams wore his Oklahoma Letterman jacket to the ring instead of a robe. Like,
really?
If you were a legitimate athlete, a legitimate sports guy, he was going to definitely tell everybody that you were a legitimate athlete. So he's the Missouri Tiger. So he ends up starting out in here, and he's obviously losing a little bit at first, but then they get him beating up some smaller guys to show off his strength here. He feuded with Ivan and Nikita Koloff, so he got in there with the whole Russian thing of neither guy being Russian, one being a French Canadian and the other being from Minnesota, but Russians. I found an article from 1986 from the Richland Beacon News in Rayville, Louisiana. Louisiana was kind of one of the central hubs of the UWF Mid-South there. And it was the Rayville youth baseball team got support from some athletes of a different sport Tuesday night. Universal Wrestling Federation members such as Jeff Gaylord, Coco Beware, which remember Coco Beware with Frankie the Bird, with the parrot, right. Brett Wayne Sawyer, I think it was the other Sawyer's brother, Buzz Sawyer's brother, and the Fantastics were at Rayville High School Stadium to help raise money for the ball field. That was another thing Bill Watts did a lot, was he was very much into like wrestling as a community. Wrestling's a part of the community, and he made his guys do tons of like stuff like that, raise money for youth shit, right. Free shows to raise money for a league or a thing or a hospital. That kept the papers from saying nasty shit about him. That's how they used to do it, because that way they wouldn't say, oh, these fucking phony bastards, because then people go, well, they just raised money for a children's hospital. They're that fucking phony. What are you doing, asshole? So that's what it was. One point, Eddie Graham, the Florida promoter, actually had a thing where a paper wrote a bad article about him, about the wrestling, that it was phony and whatever. So he wrote an editorial in the paper saying that wrestling won't be coming back to that town, because he doesn't want to put a stain on the good name of wrestling by going somewhere where they're going to just talk shit about it because they don't know anything about it. So, he's going to take it's fucking hilarious the way he worded it too. He made it like what a jerk that guy was for telling the truth. It was pretty goddamn hilarious. So, they talk about, that he went to Missouri and played football, so the kids are looking up to him because not only is he a wrestler, but he was a football player at a school they know of. He fought with Nature Boy Buddy Landell for a while here, had a feud with him, who's an interesting character. He's one of these guys who is a complete fuck-up, who, just known as like, he was a really good worker that kept getting jobs, and then he would always fuck it up because he's a disaster of a person. Drugs and fucking car accidents and all that kind of shit. So I like it. He's fun, dude. He's a fun one. Buddy Landell, some of the stories people have about Buddy Landell are hilarious in like shoot interviews.
He's an actual party.
He's an actual party. He's just a mess of a guy. He went by Nature Boy too. He was another Nature Boy. He was just this blonde dude. It was just a goddamn disaster. So he actually wrestles, Jeff does, in the UWF Superdome Extravaganza, one of their big Superdome shows, at the Superdome there on November 26, 1986. He goes on to, he fights against, he has a match against Sting. He has a little feud against Sting with Rick Steiner as well, who we know here, loses to Rick Steiner at the end of their feud there. Also in this time period, February 1987, he's also arrested a couple of times. So that's good. That's good to start out with. He gets arrested for theft twice here in 1987. Theft.
What's he stealing?
I believe it's checks from what I could find. I don't know if he's writing theft by check, I believe he's doing. So I think he's kiting bad checks at this point. He ends up doing a plea, a non-adjudication of guilt, agreed plea type of deal. Because all he's got is swinging his dick at this point. He's not like a criminal mastermind or anything. He hasn't done anything like that. So he's got that going on. That is February 21st, 1987. And then March 11th, 1987, more charges for theft by check. So this is what he was doing for a while, apparently. He was, just kiting checks, going around in 87, didn't have any fucking money. So there's that. He also has, more wrestling. In 89, he makes a brief appearance on WWF television. Holy shit.
Oh, doing what?
On Wrestling Challenge, teaming with Tim Horner, who's another staple of the South. Tim Horner's like one of those guys who was always in the South for years and years, against the Fabulous Rougeaus on April 16th. And, of course, they're just jobbing to the Fabulous Rougeaus. And then he goes to Texas to be a part of the reconstructed, half-assed World-Class Championship Wrestling, which was a mess at this point. This was after it was bought out, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think Fritz von Erich was running it anymore. It was a mess, but still, he stays there. This is where he kind of really establishes himself with a lot of the guys. He has a big feud with Jeff Jarrett, who is around forever. Also teams up with a guy named Stunning Steve Austin as well. So Stone Cold, that is.
Not
Stone Cold. Yeah, he just went by Stunning because he had long blonde hair. So teams up with Steve Austin, so him and Stone Cold here to do and a couple other guys, Skandar Akbar, Gary Young, to do an 8-man Texas Tornado match with Bill Dundee, Jeff Jarrett, Eric Embry, and Percy Pringle. Percy Pringle is Paul Bearer. Percy Pringle is fucking The Undertaker's manager. Right. That's who that is. He was a manager in Texas.
And this is Pringle. Like a knockoff Royal Rumble?
It's an 8-man Texas Tornado, which, I think that means you don't have to tag in and you can have all sorts of shit going on. So it sounds like it's like a battle royal with pinfalls, I believe. I don't know what their exact rules were on that. By 91 and 90 in Texas, who the fuck knows what was happening? So he also had a feud with Brian Lee, who would become a star later on. Also Don Harris, who was one of the Ron and Don Harris was one of they were in a tag team, identical giant guys. Twin monsters, these fucking guys. They're both 6'6", 275 pounds, identical, long, crazy hair. It just looks like two giant Vikings, and they're twins. It's the scariest fucking thing you've ever seen. Those guys
now
actually.
Their mom doesn't feel a thing.
No, nothing. They came out, and I feel like she probably just died at birth. They came out and just like she turned gray and withered in 10 minutes. Like just all of her body it's over, man.
All of her life force was just puked out with those two men.
Fuck, man. So he also lost in a tournament for the heavyweight championship in USWA. He lost to Dirty Dick Slater, who has an episode also. Really? If you want to go back and listen to that, because that was a fun episode. He then goes to Global Wrestling. I don't know if you remember this, but Global was on ESPN in the early 90s. It was like a really terrible looking wrestling that was on ESPN in like 91, 92 it was on. And it had a lot of guys who became stars. 1, 2, 3 Kid, Sean Waltman and Raven, all those guys were in it. So Eddie Gilbert is there. Eddie Gilbert is, like a second generation guy. His whole family's in the business. And apparently, by the way, he fights Matt Bourne, who is Doink the Clown when he's in Global, shit like that. But he gets in a thing with Eddie Gilbert, apparently. He comes out. Apparently, he showed up. Gaylord showed up here to a taping because he had worked a little bit there and was trying to get back in and get booked more, and Eddie Gilbert was doing the booking. So he said he showed up at the taping and asked if could we have a word. And Eddie said, hang on till the end of the show and then we can talk. If you hang out for the night, I can talk to you at the end of the night, but I got to run the show. So we can't talk right now. So Gaylord hung around there, and then Tom Pritchard and Eddie Gilbert's brother were there. Eddie Gilbert was there. Eddie Gilbert's brother, Doug. They're all in the back. And out of nowhere, fucking in the next room where Eddie Gilbert is, Jeff Gaylord came up and just fucking blasted Eddie Gilbert, just started beating the shit out of him, right? Blasts him. So they hear this commotion, and Doug Gilbert was drinking a glass bottle of Coke at the time. So he just ran in there and fucking clocked Jeff Gaylord in the head with a glass bottle of Coke, which are
That's
very
a thick bottle. That glass does not fuck around.
Yeah, absolutely. So he, so they're saying, "Go fuck, go help him," and everybody's like saying, "Go fuck, get this guy, get this monster off of him," basically. So he said that they see a trail outside, and Gaylord was already taken off in his car. Apparently, he took off. He beat him up. They threw the Coke bottle at him and split Gaylord's whole face open. So they wanted to fight about it. So anyway, a week later, they're trying to figure out what happened. Turns out, Eddie Gilbert finds out because he talks to Jeff Gaylord later. Some promoter in Pennsylvania was pissed off at Eddie Gilbert for missing a show and fucking up his card. So basically, he put $1,000 bounty on him to kick his ass. That's what it was.
And Gaylord wanted the grand.
So Jeff Gaylord showed up not to beat off Eddie. That would have been a different outing. Would have cost less than $1,000 probably. So, shows up to kick the shit out of Eddie Gilbert to collect this bounty, and afterwards, Eddie, reached out to him and said, "What the fuck were you doing? Why did you beat me up? Like, what's your goddamn problem?" And Jeff Gaylord told him the story. And Eddie said, "Hey, stupid, you should have fucking told me about it. We could have made it look good and split the fucking money, you dummy. Why would you do that? Now, you punched me, I'm hurt, and you're split open from a Coke bottle. We're wrestlers. We kind of do this for a living." He said, "I would have fucking bladed and everything. I would have looked like I got my ass kicked. I don't care. $500 free fucking dollars. I don't give a shit. What the hell is wrong with you, you stupid asshole?" And Gaylord was like, "Oh, yeah."
Instead, I took a Coke bottle for $1,000.
Yeah. Oh, what an idiot. And I don't even know if he got the fucking grand, man.
Right.
So he ends up wrestling in USWA, which was at that point, that's Memphis, where Jerry the King Lawler is reigns supreme and all that shit. But in the 90s, USWA became kind of a minor league feeder system for WWF too. So like all the guys you see in like the mid 90s that come up, they came through USWA. Even Vince McMahon tried out his bad guy character down there in like 94 even. So before all the Bret Hart shit happened, just to see how it went. So anyway, he ends up, he teams with a guy to fight Lawler and Dundee, which is a main event with Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee. Of course, he loses to Bill Dundee somehow. Bill Dundee is like 5'5". Okay. He's this little tiny guy, 5'5". I can't know what he weighs, but not much. He's not a big jacked guy or anything either. Doesn't look like he's ever worked out. He just looks like this tiny man. How could you make a match where it's realistic unless he's like a judo champion that he beat this fucking jacked up? His thighs are bigger than my torso, Jimmy. There's no fucking way.
Honestly, I've never seen legs like that on a guy that doesn't just do that like pose for a living. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Schwarzenegger winning Mr. Olympia. That's who had legs like that. Like fucking guys who win worldwide bodybuilding competitions, not people who actually
You can see every fiber of every muscle in his entire fucking leg from hip to toe.
I'll post that on social media too. I'll post that one picture because you got to see that shit.
Hell of a leg.
Fuck yeah. So he ends up, during all this, he ends up absent from the promotion for a few weeks. But after 1991, though, he's established himself as a wrestler. Pro Wrestling Illustrated, the magazine, at the end of the year, they do the 500 best singles wrestlers. That's their thing every year. The PWI 500, they call it. So this is like, all the indie guys will like, look, oh shit, I made it to 400. So you're in the magazine. It's a big deal. He ranked number 83 in all of wrestling at that point for PWI. So 83 out of 500. Not bad. That's pretty goddamn good. Yeah. No, it's top 100's good. It's not bad. In 92, he wrestled for a few months in Puerto Rico, winning the AWF International Tag Team titles there. Then he comes back in 92 to Texas, and just in time to get a nice DUI. Good job. This is
August 100 wrestler with a DUI.
There you go. Top 100 and also shit-faced. August 3rd, 1992, he gets a DUI in Dallas County. He pleads not guilty, but he's found guilty in this whole thing after a trial. In the end, by the way, he's also charged at this time with possession of a dangerous drug as well, which is like meth usually or something like that. Could have been steroids.
In Texas, I think that's Advil.
Yeah, that's
PMO.
Advil. And yeah,
PM.
well, that shit'll get you, man.
It's dangerous.
You'll sleep all morning. So between these two things, he ends up getting fined. He ends up getting $80,000 in court fines from this. From these fucking these two offenses. $80,000 is a shitload of fucking money. I don't know how you pay that back. September 18th, 92, he's also, because he has no license now, he's arrested for no seatbelt while he's driving, and for driving, period, because he's not supposed to do that. Court fines for that, Jimmy. No seatbelt, driving right after a DUI. You know what his court fines are? No seatbelt.
$80.
$27,000 for not putting your seatbelt on.
No way.
Yep, because it was also because he wasn't supposed to be driving. So it all got wrapped up into a fucking $27,000 court fine, which is wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Anyway, back in USWA, he teams up with Mr. Hughes. Do you remember Mr. Hughes?
No.
Big giant black guy who wore like a dress shirt and a tie and slacks and sunglasses even while he wrestled. Remember that guy? Ever see him?
No.
Weird guy. They team up to beat Jerry Lawler and Jeff Jarrett. So those are pretty big legends down there to be beating them. Jeff Jarrett's the fucking other promoter's son. He's Jerry Jarrett's son. So you're beating the promoter and the other promoter's son. So that's a thing. It's a big deal here. So he ends up going on. He's one of these guys. He's a mid-carder. Like sometimes he'll be pushing more toward the top of the card, but he's never he's not the champion. He's not the heavyweight champion. Okay. But he's pushing up toward the top of the card because he's a good, big, jacked up guy. Does that little program and kind of dips back down in the middle of the card. He's that kind of guy. He's a mid-range good guy. He's kind of like he was champ for. I was going to say he's like Morocco in the mid '80s in WWF, but he was Intercontinental champ for a while, so I can't really say that. Anyway, he's doing all this shit. He's in USWA. Yeah. He's having that. He lost to Tom Pritchard there. Finally, he feuds with the Rock and Roll Phantom.
What the fuck is that?
The Rock and Roll Phantom, Jimmy. That's not good.
I don't know what that is.
It's not good. He looked like a Kiss character. It's not a good...
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Not a great thing there. And then he also beat Johnny Polo, who was Raven later on and everything there. So not bad. March 14th, 1993, though, he is arrested for another DWI. Good for him.
Texas again?
In Texas, Collin County, Texas this time. Driving while intoxicated. Also possession of narcotic paraphernalia as well on this day. This will earn him, let's see, $27,000 in fines as well. Here.
Okay. So the drugs are a big deal for him.
Yeah, drugs, booze. $19,700 for driving while intoxicated, $7,300 for possession of paraphernalia. So he's got some fucking problems here. Back to there. He's wrestling, fighting PG-13. Those guys who are Wolfie D and Jamie Dundee. Jamie Dundee is a guy we need an episode about. He is fucking crazy. He's been arrested 100 times. I mean, he's like the Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia, basically. He's those guys. Everybody where he lives knows him. He's a mess. So he does all that shit. He's
Jamie Dundee?
Jamie Dundee. He's Bill Dundee's brother. Or son, I'm sorry, not brother. He's his son. And he's
related.
Fuck up of the highest order. I mean, there's an interview.
Raised in wrestling. That's why.
Dude. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you can't get any more fucked up. And then he got into it young, too. There are shoot interviews with him where he is so fucked up. It's a mess, man. There's this one, Sean Oliver talks about it in his book. This one, it's fucking hilarious. Where he talks about it at the end. The guy said, Jamie goes, well, when we're done with this interview, can you send me a copy of it? Like when you put it out, can I have a copy? And he goes, yeah, sure, of course. Yeah. He goes, where would you like me to send it? And he gets a pen and a piece of paper ready to write down the address to send it to, like a human being would do. Sean Oliver sitting there. And the guy goes, send it to Mama. And he goes, okay. Well, what's Mama's address? He goes, send it to Mama's. Just put Mama's house. I get all my mail at Mama's house. Everybody knows any mail to me goes to Mama's house. And he goes, but I don't know where Mama's house. I need a I need a state, a zip code. There's got to be something. I can't just say mama's house and put it in a fucking Jamie's mom. It was put Jamie's mama. That's what it was. Not mama's house. Jamie's mama. He goes,
crisscross.
You
get it.
Yeah, I can't just put Jamie's mama on an envelope and fucking drop it in a mailbox and it's going to get there. You can't do that. You need some sort of physical address. And he said he never got it out of him. He couldn't get it. He just said Jamie's mama. That's all he would say. Everybody knows you send me anything goes to Jamie's mama. Okay. So, crazy motherfucker, we'll just say.
Well, I clearly don't know, Jamie.
He's so wasted. It's not, he can't even comprehend that there's addresses, that they exist in the world. Incredible. And you need one to mail something. To mail, he's not like, I'm driving it to your house. He goes down the street on the left. He's mailing it. You need a specific place. That's like, what's your phone number? Just say Jamie's phone. People know. You just call it Jamie's phone, and then it'll
look. Just say to Siri, call Jamie's mama, and he'll call it.
He'll call her. On November 24th, he has his biggest night of his career here.
Yeah.
He makes, well, not really because he's under a mask, but it's his biggest show. He makes a pay-per-view appearance in the 1993 Survivor Series for WWF. He is fighting the Hart family here. It's Owen and Brett and their two brothers too that are, Canadian wrestlers. Those guys are fighting. It was supposed to be Jerry Lawler here in this spot. Mm-hmm. Jerry Lawler and his guys, like three guys. But Jerry Lawler was in trouble for getting a little too close to a teenage girl at this point.
Right.
So WWF had shit-canned him at this point and didn't use him for a while till he cleared all that up. So instead, it's Shawn Michaels fighting the Hart family. And with Shawn Michaels are three knights. The Red Knight, the Black Knight, and the Blue Knight. There you go. That's it. And Jeff,
fucking medieval times.
It's just because they had nobody to put there, so they got jobbers and put masks on them. That's it. So then they look like big jacked up guys. That he hired these guys as assassins to take out the Hart family. So he plays the Black Knight, and he's pinned by Owen Hart. There you go. He's the first man eliminated. Old Jeff Gaylord. So he does that. Wow. And it was him. The other knights were Barry Horowitz, who's a career jobber. And I don't know why he was doing this. And Greg the Hammer Valentine was another one.
Really?
He was Greg the Hammer's a fucking legend. But I guess he needed a couple bucks. Pay-per-views pay. So it's at this point he doesn't know what he's going to do. He's got to go back to USWA because that's why they used him, because they're using USWA talent in WWF. He doesn't know what to do. He's having a lot of problems. But he's still wrestling. He loses to Doug Gilbert, who's the guy who hit him with a Coke bottle when he punched his brother, by the way. Loses to Skull Von Crush, which is the worst name in the history of wrestling. I've always thought that. Jesus Christ, man. Loses to Coco Beware, who's about half his height, which is great. Teams up with Ricky Morton and a couple other guys for a team for a while here. Otherwise, though, he's WCW Saturday Night. Remember that show that was like the crappy WCW show that was on Saturday nights at 6:05?
That makes sense.
Eastern. He's on a taping there where he beats Rip Rogers, and that doesn't do anything for him here. He's just not doing too much, basically, here. 2000 comes along, and he's done wrestling by now. Once 2000 comes along, he pretty much wrestles until about 97, 98-ish. He has a run for 2 seconds in WCW at the end there. He's hanging out with Sid Vicious. There's a thing going on there with him, but it's very, very brief. He's out of wrestling by the turn of the century, though, by 2000. And just in time, in August of 2000, to be arrested for misdemeanor possession of drugs as well here. He pleads guilty, has to pay $11,000 in court costs on that bad boy.
Oh, no.
Holy shit. Then, finally, in October of 2001, Jeff goes into a bank in Aurora, Colorado. Okay?
Oh, no.
And goes up to the teller and demands some money from her. He's fucking robbing a bank. He said he had a gun. He acted like he had a gun. So the teller gave him $5,000 from the drawer, and he took it and took off. So he robbed a bank for $5,000 and got away with it. Got away with it. Okay, $5,000 set. So 4 months later, he enters the same bank and does the exact same thing again. The same fucking bank.
Would they ever expect that, James? It's kind of genius.
Never expect it. Well, they were expecting it, and they were ready for it this time because they were like, hey, this is the procedure if we get robbed now. And one of the procedures was for one of the bank employees, as soon as the guy leaves, to run to the window and try to get his license plate number, which they did, which they got his license plate number on his car as he drove away. Not wonderful. Dumb as shit.
Pretty good.
So on routine patrol, Officer Frank Rodmans received a radio call advising of a robbery, describing the suspect, the getaway car, the license plate. Giant man in a car with this license plate. You can't fucking miss it. So this officer saw the vehicle.
He's been at this bank so much, we all call him the Thighs.
He's the Thighs. The Thighs is back. I think he's got a gun. I don't know. So this officer Rodman sees the car, follows the car into a lot on a small hill behind an auto garage, and blocks in the car. That's his plan. So Gaylord gets out of the car with his hands in the air and starts walking over to the officer. The officer instructed him to kneel down on the ground. Instead, he should get down on the ground. So instead of getting on his knees, Gaylord said, I'm going to get back on my car and flee. So instead of getting on his knees, he turned around, got back in the car, and took off. That was what he did. He takes off, right? So Officer Rodman jumped in his car. Officer Rodman jumped
on his car?
On the back of his car. And was hanging off it like Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon, and ended up breaking his foot in the process because you're not supposed to do that. I don't think that's procedure.
No.
Imagine that in the academy. Now, if the suspect runs, what you need to do here is leap on his trunk. I know it sounds crazy, but you really just, if you hold on to the sides, I think you can get a decent grip. Try to swing back and forth with your legs to go with it. Go with the momentum. Don't try to fight it.
There is an e-brake if you reach under the trunk and pull. There's a lever under there. You just got to get to it.
You can stop. It's little known. That's the thing. It's called the police brake back there. It's if you're hanging off the
e-brake
back.
runs all the way back to the back brakes through the trunk. So you just got to reach your arm around.
Oh my God, that's so funny. So then, in order to get out, he was making like a 3-point turn. He fucking backed into the cop's car after that. Bashed into that, then sped forward over a curb, obviously, and down toward the garage. This guy, Officer Rodman, jumped back in his car with his broken foot and followed Gaylord onto I-25. Once they get on the highway, they said that Gaylord drove about 55 miles an hour. You know, he wasn't speeding, but he was weaving in and out of traffic. That's what he was doing. But he's not like going 120.
Sure. Yeah.
Because there's traffic, too. I guess apparently he took an exit like without slowing down, so the guy wouldn't know he was taking the exit, thought he would miss it, so Gaylord just off the exit on the on-ramp, and so he ends up hitting some loose gravel, causing his car to spin out toward the end of the ramp and hit a traffic island and roll over several times.
Oh,
Gaylord's
no.
car. Oh, yeah. Bang. It hit the curb and then rolled several times. It's going, 60 miles an hour. Spinning, hitting a curb.
That doesn't seem fast enough to roll a car.
It did. It rolled a goddamn car. Shit, my mother, when I was a kid, we rolled a Honda CRX going about 25 miles an hour on wet leaves. Just, I guess, you lose
Those
your
things
grip.
are so low. I'm stunned.
Wow, it flipped a lot, too. It was flat like a pancake. It was wild. I was like 8 years old. So at this point, finally, the cop car kind of drove in a little slower behind him now. Like, well, not such a big rush now. Pulled Gaylord out of the car and cuffed his ass and took him to jail. They said that he's also suspected of another bank robbery as well at that point. Now, we'll talk about what they charge him with because they're charging him with bank robbery. They're also charging him in reckless endangerment. So they're trying to get a reckless endangerment enhancement on that to make his jail time greater.
Because of the bank robbery,
So he doesn't know what the fuck to do at this point. I mean, he is like... He doesn't know what to do, but he's in jail. Obviously, he can't kite a check for your bail. That's one thing. You gotta have the money for that.
Check the funds.
They check the funds. They don't just let you kite bail checks there. Yeah. You wonder why he got arrested for kiting all those checks. By the way, he learned it from Clinton Mangus.
Yeah,
he's like, I know how to do this. This is easy. Shit, I can go everywhere.
They don't even have to be good. They just write it and leave.
Yeah, I mean, so he was talking to his lawyer a lot about the reckless endangerment because he doesn't think that should be on there. So he's talking to his lawyer a lot. A lot of people coming in and out. Finally, there's a knock at the door one day. Knock at the door, and he opens it, and it's the Mexican pimp standing there, guns blazing, and he says, "How is it you've come to arrive here? Why are you here? Why? I know why. For once, I tell you why. Because you are lazy. You are lazy. If you went out, you talk to the women, you convince them, or not, but either way, they're going to do what you want. And you take them, and you make them that's how you make money. Why you do this? You go into bank like they're not going to catch you. If you want to rob bank, here's what you do. Send a woman in there, make her do it, and then give you the money. See? Bank pimping. Bank pimping is new. It's a new thing just for you.
Bank robbery?
Just for you. Bank pimp. Jeff Gaylord. That is my advice to you. Poof. And he's gone. In a cloud of tequila and 6 shooters. He's out of there. And bad advice. He's out of there. So, he's very confused now. He doesn't know what the hell happened. So he says, though, that the court should not charge him with reckless endangerment because he says that he was driving at or below the speed limit when he was rushing away.
Okay.
Caused no injuries. The guy jumping on his car, he didn't back in. The guy jumped on his car, so you can't really blame him for
That's
that.
his fault. Yeah.
So, I mean, he was running, so you kind of can. He said, he said that he didn't even receive any traffic citations for that. So, I mean, how can it be reckless endangerment when I didn't even get a fucking ticket? What's up with that? It was like, because they were more worried about the bank robbery that you just committed and the officer that was hanging off of your car 5 seconds ago, probably, than,
Thank God he let go.
Yeah. Yeah, right? Than worrying about not signaling when you change lanes. Yeah, really. He would have been on the freeway going 55. So they cite cases where the application of enhancement, the enhancement application for like something like this charge involved far more reckless conduct during flight, like speeding a wrong way down a one-way street or driving very significantly over the speed limit while weaving from lane to lane. I was going the speed limit and waving, for fuck's sake here. So they said there's one that a guy was going 75 miles an hour and crashed into cars at the top of a blind hill. So that was a thing here. So he's citing all this stuff. He says Gaylord's lawyers said that his conduct, by contrast, represented neither a gross deviation from the standard of care nor a substantial increase in the risk of harm to others. It's fine. What are you talking about?
That lawyer is so understanding.
I mean, what are we doing here? The court says here, however, the facts, though, entirely establish reckless endangerment. An officer, Rodman, ordered him to his knees. Gaylord jumped back into his car, backed into the officer's car, and proceeded to drive through the parking lot and onto Interstate 25. Officer Rodman followed Gaylord, who was driving at approximately 55 miles an hour and weaving in and out of traffic. He abruptly entered. They tell the whole thing, basically. They flipped his car over. And also, there's another thing. It's uncontested. He doesn't even contest this, that he told investigators. They said, "Why the fuck did you run? What's wrong with you?" And he goes, "Well, it's probably because I'm a little drunk." It's probably just because I've had a few. You know how that goes, right?
It's the old punchline.
You know, probably because I've had a few. Apparently,
you know that old joke where the cop pulls the old couple over and the guy's being mean to the wife, and the cop pulls the wife out of the car and goes, "Does he always talk to you like this?" And she goes, "Only when he's drunk."
Yeah. Oh, no, only when he's drunk. It's fine.
Same joke.
Same fucking joke.
The same thing.
Except very, very much sadder. So,
I would drive like an asshole when I'm drunk, officer. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, well, they're also saying with the reckless endangerment too, there were other vehicles at the bottom of the ramp. He just happened to miss them when he fucking.
Thank fuck for that.
He was spinning out of control. He had no control over missing them. He just happened to miss them. Luckily, so they were like, "That's reckless. That's as reckless as it gets." Mm-hmm. So apparently, in order to rob a bank, you need to get your nerves up. Apparently, you need to get a little loose, and about 5 shots of vodka does that for him, is what he says.
Is that what it is?
He did about 5 shots of vodka before he went and robbed the bank, so he was still a little tipsy. Obviously he's not going to be the best driver at this point. How do you expect me to drive well when I'm shit-faced? Jesus Christ, fucking people, what do they want from me? I'm hammered. Obviously I'm going to fucking drive bad. What the fuck?
Haven't you ever robbed a bank officer? You need booze.
You need some booze, man. It gets your nerves up, brother. Come on. So it ends up that he ends up pleading guilty now. So he gets out of it. He pleads guilty to 2 counts of committing bank robbery. That's the deal. And they hit him up, though, with the level 2 enhancement of this whole thing. So there's that. So he's got an enhancer on that. Sentencing comes around. You, sir, may fuck off. 6.5 years in prison he's sentenced to.
Okay. That's pretty good.
It's not bad. I mean, he has no, prison record before, but you rob a bank and then, run away with a cop's hanging off your trunk. You can expect to go to prison for a couple of years. Rob 2 banks, not even just fucking one. That's a lot. Right. So he ends up doing some time. He gets out of prison. Okay. Gets out of prison. He's out for a little while. He doesn't do the full, 6.5 years. It's a first offense. August 26, 2008, though, while he's on probation, he ends up violating his probation and going back to prison. I found the probation report, and he is adjudicated guilty of quote, violation of the law and failure to participate in substance abuse testing as directed by the probation officer. So his probation was supposed to end the next year, and instead he fucked it all up. And they give him, you, sir, may keep fucking off, 18 months in jail, 18 months extra now in jail. So he's got to finish out his sentence that he missed, and then another 18 months tacked onto that.
Holy shit.
So he ends up doing about another 6 years after this, because he's got to do this remaining time and then that too. So it's a lot. About 5 years, I'm sorry. Upon his release from prison, here's his terms of his probation. He shall be on supervised release for 3 years after that. He's got to report to his probation officer when he's released. 72 hours from his release, he's got to go there. He can't commit any crimes, can't have any controlled substances, obviously. He has to submit to 1 drug test within 15 days of release and 2 periodic drug tests afterwards. He can't possess a firearm. He's got to cooperate in a collection of his DNA. He's got to pay fines and all this shit because he still hasn't paid. He still hasn't paid the bank back for the $5,000 he stole. He still has restitution he has to pay in the amount of, Jesus, I'll find it here in a second, but it's $5,000 something here. He's got to report to his probation officer.
How does he not be able to pay them back? It was right then, right? Oh, it was the second time though.
Yeah, you gotta rob Chase to pay. Fucking
to pay Wells Fargo,
3rd, 5th, or whatever the fuck it is. Yeah. So you got to do that, man. That's the way it works. So he's got to. He's not allowed to frequent places where controlled substances are illegally sold, used, distributed, or administered. That's already a law. I don't think you have to make that a special extra law. You just say you can't break the law. Otherwise, you have to list every law that exists on the earth and say you can't do that specifically. He can't associate with any persons engaged in criminal activity or convicted of a felony. So now he can't. He's not going to be able to do wrestling if he can't be around convicted felons. You're out there. Sorry. There's a bunch of those around. All that type of shit. So he can't use alcohol or any other intoxicants over the course of his treatment. He's got to do, the treatment is all up to the discretion of his probation officer. He's got to pay restitution in the amount of $5,061.02. Did he take 2 pennies from the drawer? How does that work? Is that $61.02 of interest or some shit at
it's gotta be right
$1.82 a year or some weird shit like that?
It's a late fee.
It's like a late fee. Like he didn't rewind his videos in 1993. So he's this is the U.S. Corporate Bank 2555 South Colorado Boulevard in Denver, Colorado. He's got to do here. Interest on the restitution obligation will be waived upon the court's finding that he does not have the ability to pay interest. So they're going to waive his interest fees. So I don't know what that is.
That's nice.
The restitution balance is to be made payable in monthly payments of at least $100 during the term of supervision. So he's got to pay them $100 a month once he gets out.
It's going to take so long. Yeah,
it's going to take to pay back $5,000 here. You do the math; it's pretty easy here. And he shall receive credit for all payments previously made toward any monetary obligations imposed. And there's that. So, I mean, he's got a lot to do and no way to really do it. So, I mean, he brought it upon himself, but still, you gotta kind of feel bad for how far his life has fallen from grace. It's not great here.
James, he's going to be in the system for the rest of his life now. There's no way to dig yourself out of this, right?
And that's federal, too, because it's all federal shit, because it's bank robbery. So he's in a lot of trouble. I mean, I feel bad for him. I really do. But not nearly as bad as I feel for Jeff Gaylord, a lacrosse player who graduated Ridgefield High School in Connecticut in 2008. Here, Jeff Gaylord, a partner in the New York law office of Louis Bribois and co-chair of the Directors and Officers Coverage Practice. Over 20 years experience with insurance companies, corporate. He's a corporate fucking lawyer, this guy. Yeah. Jeff Gaylord, Heritage High School in Lynchburg, Virginia football player who graduated in 2014. He played nose tackle, so I figured, you can get mixed up there with him. He's a big kid, Jeff Gaylord, Jesus Christ, poor guy. Mr. Jeff Gaylord, assistant principal at Magruder Elementary School, home of the Panther Cubs, in Williamsburg, Virginia. Jeff Gaylord, these are always the ones I feel the worst for. Real estate agent. Fuck. Any of the guys where, like, your name is all you have, it's like, God damn it. Like, because people aren't going to think you're that Jeff Gaylord, but if your name is David Berkowitz, they just go with the next person. They don't care. So it's like, let's just go with the guy who's not David Berkowitz, right? Yeah, okay, good.
Probably not him, but on the off chance.
I know it's not, but, it's just a
Did he get out? I don't know. Have you checked? I haven't checked.
Is he selling Is he selling real estate in Maryland?
Is there a Tabitha Mooney selling houses or some shit like that? Something I've never heard of?
Jeff Gaylord, Cummings and Company Realtors, LLC in Bel Air, Maryland. So buy a house from that guy if you're in Bel Air, Maryland. He's probably lost a couple. Finally, Anne-Marie Usury and Jeff Gaylord, a couple who were just married on January 30th, 2021 in McKenzie, Texas, and they have their registry up here from Macy's, and you can tell they didn't get everything because of his name. It's just they thought he was a bank robber. They're still looking for their Arthur Court modern caramel pattern handlebar ice scooper for $40.
They want a mid-century modern ice scooper?
Ice scooper. An Arthur's Court Designs aluminum fleur-de-lis rectangle tray. It's like a big silver serving tray. $213.99. Nobody's bought them that. Seville Classics woven storage cube baskets, set of 2, little cube things that you put shit in. Those are $35. Nobody bought those. Analon Advanced Bakeware 10x16 cooling grid, like you put cookies on and shit. $14.99. It says they need 2 of 2. Nobody's bought them one. What is this? A hand-brushed, embellished canvas. Some picture of it looks like wheat or some shit. $87.99. They want that shit. Martha Stewart collection, set of 2 trivets. Trevets? I don't even know what that is. Trevets, it's like a serving thing. You put something hot on it, looks like. I don't know what the fuck it is. $5.99. I don't know. Honey Can Do 14-inch round non-cracking pizza stone. Those are good, those pizza stones. Good for heating shit up. $25.99. Richard's Homeware's China Storage felt plate separators. $12.99. They need 2 of those.
Those are brilliant. Who doesn't?
It's a pretty good idea for
I
fine
want
China.
Those.
That's nice stuff.
So you can stack your porcelain in the fucking in the shelf. That's brilliant.
Charter Club. I don't have China though. Charter Club Damask 100%.
You have glass fucking plates though, don't you?
I have some. I have plates like an adult.
Of course.
550 thread count sheets. $200. They're going mid range. That's good. Casafina Cook and Host large cream-footed cake plate. The cake that stands at the cake stand, $89. It's out of stock, though, so you're going to have to keep checking back for that one.
I love that you focus on this person's registry.
I don't know why. I was looking at this at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, why not? It's like the
what
sales,
did they
but
want?
better. Umbra
a footed cake serving plate? What the fuck?
Jesus Christ, yeah, of course you didn't get that. Umbra Udry drying rack and mat. It looks like for dishes, like you stand the dishes up, $24. Martha Stewart collection 2-in-1 sink and cookware scraper, $196. They need a scraper. It's a cheap present.
Nobody even got them that?
No, they even want the 16-inch non-cracking pizza stone. So they might want a small pie and a large. They don't know what they're doing here. They want that. They want holiday glass storage bowls. Somebody bought them that. The next 5 items are things that they actually got. This is exciting. I'm so excited to see what they got. Lennox hosting the holidays glass storage bowls. They're glass bowls with like mistletoe on them. Okay.
Yeah.
Corningware French white 3-quart rectangular baker. You can bake a casserole in it. It's got handles though. $27.99. Pyrex 12-piece storage set. $27.99. A measuring cup set of 4 here. $21.99. And finally, a Honey Can Do magazine basket.
Somebody bought them a magazine basket.
One of those wicker ones they put in the bathrooms, $19.99. That's been purchased. So
somebody
if you want to
that,
get them a gift,
get them an
feel
ice
free.
cream scoop. Jesus Christ!
Feel free to look through their registry and team up and get them something. I don't know.
What do you say? We should send them something. If you like,
we should. Let's send them the ice scooper. Let's just send them the ice scooper. You wanna? It's such a weird thing to want. I just want to give it to them.
It'd be hilarious. Can you imagine their face? Crime and Sports podcast. What the fuck is this?
Who gave us this? Why do we have? We're buying. I have the page still up. We're buying them that scooper. We're doing it.
Let's send them something.
It'd be hilarious if all of our listeners filled out their registry and just we got them everything. Because the guys
saw you wanted this
Gaylord.
6 months ago and you didn't get it.
I mean, sorry your name's Jeff Gaylord. Here's some stuff we gave you. And it gets worse. Being Jeff Gaylord's never easy. Because in January of 2009, December 23rd of 2009 to be exact, or I'm sorry, this is when it came out, it's January, December 23rd, 2008, a disguised man walks into a bank, passes a note to a teller, demanding money and claiming he had a gun. He's wearing a hoodie, sunglasses, fake beard, and a fake padded belly. He's wearing a big fat belly, one of those. Because with this body, with a body like mine.
Padded belly with those thighs.
He was, so he ended up robbing the bank that time and got away with it.
Yeah.
Then he was spotted entering the Castle Rock branch again on New Year's Eve, December 31st. But he left the area when he was approached by an employee. He wasn't wearing the padding on the second visit, they said. So he got away with that, okay? So he's robbed a bank once, went to rob it twice, didn't get it. Then he went to Monument, where he robbed the King Soopers U.S. Bank branch on West Baptist Road. In that robbery, he's wearing a fake beard, a bandage over his nose, dark sunglasses, and a hoodie pulled over his head. And he also passed the note saying that he had a weapon, he demanded money, but they ended up, knowing who he was. A witness outside ended up getting, guess what again, Jimmy? His license plate number.
Yeah.
Dude. This is why back in the day, like when guys would steal a car, they'd rob a bank, they'd steal a car to go rob the bank. So then when they get your license plate number, you dump that shit 3 blocks away, get in another car, and you're gone. That's how you rob a fucking bank. You don't get in your car.
Set that thing on fire somewhere.
Yeah, you don't get your daily driver and go to the bank and rob shit and go pull away like a fucking lunatic. You think he would know to park blocks away or something. I don't know.
Right. Robbing a bank with a Graco car seat in the back seat.
Yeah, I can do it. It's fine. This led them right to his house in Littleton, of course, there.
Yeah.
He's arrested on January 14th. It's a robbery at a U.S. bank in Monument, and like we said, a branch in Castle Rock. He's arrested at his home January 15th. Following a 2-hour interrogation conducted by multiple jurisdictions, including Monument Police, Littleton Police, FBI, Rocky Mountain Safe Street Task Force, and a detective with the Monument Police. The official investigation disclosed the bank robberies, obviously, were, it's funny, when they got into it, they actually thought this. They were like, he's a wrestler, so he's good at disguises. They actually thought that. Like, he knows they put in the paper, like, this is a guy who knows how to be a different character and a different person. He was a wrestler. And then they went over, like, all of his personas. He went as this guy. He went as the Hood. He went as the Black Knight. Yeah. He went as Missouri Tiger. So, I mean, this guy could be anybody. You know.
He's been doing it since college, painting himself green to shake his cock in ladies' faces.
He's still 250 pounds and 6'3", too. He's still a big, giant guy. The one police officer said, quote, he's built like a brick shithouse when they got to him there.
That sounds like a Colorado officer.
Yeah. He's a brick shithouse, this guy. He told the investigators that his bank robbery spree was driven by, quote, personal economic conditions. I'm fucking broke. That's why.
It's 2009. So's everybody else, asshole.
Yeah, we're all broke. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we were all piss poor then. So then they figured out that he's the same guy that robbed the bank on the 23rd. They did all of that shit. They figured it out. Same thing, though, because he had the note and the weapon. He said he had a gun, said he wanted money, had the fake beard and all that shit. Once they get a search warrant to search his house, they find that he's in possession of the bait money planted by the monument teller, which was the marked money. So he's got that money in his house, as well as a notepad with impressions of one of the demand notes, the monument one. He had the notepad, and he wrote it on his pad, and then just ripped the piece off and left it there and gave it to the teller and left that pad, so they just went right over it with the thing, and they were like, oh, it says that's a exact copy of the fucking bank robbery.
Yeah, outlines.
Terrible. He's really bad at this. He's not a good fucking bank robber.
But he's great at disguises.
Terrific at it, obviously. Fake beard, padding, that's top of the line, right? So November 2009.
He put a pillow in his shirt.
November 2009, Monument Detective Steve Blazkowski was recognized for his work in a multi-jurisdictional effort to apprehend him earlier. He fucking drove away and somebody got his license plate number and he went to his house. Does that need an award ceremony?
He drove his own car, and you get a commendation for that?
Give me a fucking break, man. I mean, good for you and everything, but still, I mean...
Yeah.
Next time I go to McDonald's and order a Big Mac, when they put it in front of me, balloons are going to fall. Oh, my God, he did it. He got him a Big Mac and fries. Holy shit, you've done your job. Not saying it's whatever, but, I mean, you know... He kind of did a lot of it for you, is what I'm getting at.
The officer put a license plate number into the Rolodex, and it showed the address.
Yeah, he called it in, and then was like, oh, I'll go there then. That's where he'll be. So,
give him an award!
He says, this is one of the cops here. He says, quote, he was still working out regularly about our guy, Jeff. And when we eventually arrested him up in Littleton, when another officer with the Safe Streets Task Force in Denver went to contact him, he got a painmaker right in the jaw. Apparently, Gaylord took a swing at this at an officer who tried to get a hold of him. Ooh, apparently, he cracked him a fucking good one. Yeah, and they ended up taking him down anyway because he's a big fucking guy.
Called it, what did he call it? He caught a what?
A painmaker, which I think he probably said haymaker, and the guy didn't.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't take it down right here.
Right.
So he is presented an award by Robert Mueller. Actually, he's presented an award by there. He says, "quote Your skills, devotion, and duty to and ability to work closely with other law enforcement officers were responsible for a significant part of the success achieved in this priority investigation." So yeah, the fact that they actually worked together was like a big deal. Like he actually brought people in. Hey, you guys didn't fucking fight each other like assholes. Great, good. That's good. So. He is sent to prison again, and this is not only a violation of his probation, but extra charges and everything else. He is not released from prison until July 15th, 2015. All right,
Shit.
So he's released then. He lays low for a couple years. 2018, I found him in jail again. This is in Colorado again. He is in, Denver County Court, and this time... a little more serious. He is in it for bank robbery even. He is in it for second-degree kidnapping and second-degree assault at this point in time. That's what he's sitting in jail for as of 2018. So that's not good at all. So I found that. Then I looked in the jails to see if he's a current inmate, and he's not. So I don't know if he got off on that shit. But as of May something, there was an active warrant for his arrest in the Denver area.
So they want him, yeah.
So he was, I don't know if he's cleared that up by now, but as of last month, he's wanted in Denver for something. We don't know what. So something. He's out there, everybody. Hang on to your fucking ATM cards, I guess. Can't get enough? Well, you can, on eBay, I found a wrestling card of his. It is the Missouri Tiger Jeff Gaylord Territory Wrestling card. I think they're new, these Territory Wrestling cards. And you can get it for $6.95 with free shipping. It's a picture of his stupid face, and it looks like it's half melted. Or you can do something really fun, which is watch his terrible promos on YouTube. He's the worst fucking promo, one of the worst of all time. There's one specifically where he comes out and they're like, so let me ask you, Jeff, how about this and that? And he goes, ooh, I just want to get him. And I'm like, what? He's like, I just want to take the guy and I just want to hurt him. And then he just walks away. And I'm like, that's the worst promo. It's the worst promo I've ever, I've seen the top 10 bad promos that I've ever seen. He's got the 3 of them of the top spots. It's wild. The guy's a fucking mess. He sucks. So there he is. Look out for giant thighs coming at you. And you see a padded belly and giant thighs run out of the bank. We'll put it that way because he's looking to rob it.
Thighs will be released.
Holy shit. So that is Jeff Gaylord, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. Shit. It's a wild story. A wrestler, football player is always good shit. So if you did enjoy that, tell the world about it. Get on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars, please. It helps a lot. Helps drive you up the charts. Head over to shutupandgivememurder.com right now. Tickets to live shows, merchandise, more merchandise than you can shake a stick at. It's all up there. More merchandise than you can shake your dick at, I should say, in a room full of... your green cock in a room full of women there. So head over there. Patreon.com/crimeinsports. I'm telling you, everybody, get on Patreon. You will not be disappointed. We throw down on Patreon. They're so much fun. This week's episodes, and you get access to both shows' episodes and all the back catalog and everything like that. This week we are going to, for Crime and Sports, we're going to talk about the Atlanta Gold Club, which was a strip club in Atlanta that got in a lot of trouble for offering way more than just dances to people in a sexual realm. And this ensnared so many athletes, it's not even funny, because Atlanta's like a hub for athletes. Atlanta's like Phoenix in a way where tons of athletes live there. It's just one of those things. Yeah. And lots of them had to testify in court in detail under oath to exactly what services were rendered to them. So it should be fucking fun to listen to, and there's all sorts of crazy shit. That's that one. And then Small Town Murders, we're going to talk about the crazy documentary Sons of Sam with that Maury Terry's the name of the author that came up with this whole theory about the Sons of Sam, and that Sam wasn't alone. David Berkowitz wasn't alone when he's committing the Son of Sam murders. There's actually a bunch of other guys that committed some of the murders, and it's like a big thing.
It's the most fun conspiracy theory I've ever heard.
Well, they don't even scratch the surface of it in that documentary. The book is his. It's all him doing that. So it's nobody.
That's the reward of all of his investigation.
Yeah, it's called The Ultimate Evil. It's a 25-hour book, and it's nobody saying like he thought this. It's just everything he thought puked up on 25 hours worth of audio. There's crazy shit where he's like, you see this in the one letter he wrote, it says he's actually giving directions to his house, like this line here, and he does a whole line by line. We'll go over it in this episode, but he goes, this line here, it says, get off your butts. Now, if you say, get off your butts, get off, like get off a road. Now, butts, that could be translated to cigarettes, so that could be, there's a street by his house named Ash, so you take that as get off on Ash. And you make a right on Ash, and then it takes you to his house. That's the interpretation he was doing, dude.
God.
That's where that whole shit came from. It was thoughts like that from a guy who had way too much time to think about it. So we'll go over all of that. And was Son of Sam actually a member of a satanic cult and all of these things? And are there all the other members get away with it? And he took the fall for it all these years? We'll talk about it, and we'll have lots of opinions on it. Check that out. All of that and more. Patreon.com/crimeinsports and all the back catalog. And in addition, you're a producer, so we're going to love you, number one. And number two, we're going to give you we're going to read your name. Jimmie is going to mispronounce it brutally, even though he's trying his best to pronounce it correctly. He really wants to get them right. So, we'll do all that. You can get everything like that. Patreon.com/crimeinsports. If you just want to be a producer, you don't care about the bonus stuff, I don't know what you're doing, but hey, thanks a lot. We appreciate it anyway. You can do that over at PayPal using our email address, crimeinsports@gmail.com. Oh, and I forgot to say, there is now an annual Patreon membership you can buy, and you get 10% off.
Which is cool.
That's cool as shit. So then you get 10% off, too. So it's like you get $6 off or whatever. So that's something. I mean, if you're going to sign up all year anyway, you might as well get $6 off. It's well worth it. That said, Jimmie, please hit me with the names of the most wonderful goddamn people on this earth who we could not do this show without right now.
This week's executive producers are Joanne Ahern, Synanon graduate Christian Pierce.
Oh, Synanon graduate.
Ruben Revelis, Revelis? I think it's Revelis. His daughter is, I believe she's getting married in Vegas. I think that's the thing.
Well, congratulations.
I have to check it, but... Yeah, there's also Jordan Bennett. Yes, Michaela Revelis and his future son-in-law, Freddie Gonzalez. His son-in-laws? No, it's just one. But they're getting married in Vegas in June. So
awesome.
Congratulations, the two of you. Also, we have Jordan Bennett, of course, and Michael Remick. I think it's Remick. You guys, we can't do it without you. And having you guys around, being so supportive is truly fucking incredible. Thank you so much. Other producers this week are Rick Perrondo and Jess Perrondo. They're celebrating the 14th anniversary. Maria Rasper, Carl Kirshner, and his poison-ivied asshole. Old boy wiped his ass in the woods, evidently, with the wrong plant.
Oh, my God. That's why you always bring Charmin wherever you go.
Yeah. Or there's also an app that you can identify plants. Get that thing, Carl, and figure out your life.
Make sure you're not allergic first. Yeah, good call.
James Martyr, Peyton Meadows, Liz Vasquez. Happy birthday, Liz. I think we said it last week, but just to be sure, want to make sure. Thank you so much, Liz. David Beers, in memory of racist Nan, for your pleasure, James.
Well, thank you. We all miss
I don't know how long racist Nan's been gone, but
a while.
David wanted to make sure she was remembered.
Might have just heard it. Thank you so much.
Kelly Higby, Steve Schnell. Thank you, Steve. I miss that guy so much.
Can't
wait to get back out on the road. Carrie Brantley quit drinking and lost over 100 pounds, James. Way to go, Carrie.
Wow, congrats.
Keep it up. Valerie Callahan and her Callahan brake pads money. Alexa Herkamp. Kim Hodgkiss. Dr. Leo Marvin.
Awesome. Dr. Marvin.
Tiffany's terrific. Jeremy Bethune, Amy Easton, Jason Roberts, Janice Hill, Emma Keller defended her thesis. Congratulations, Dr. Keller.
Congrats.
Jess Campanello, Elizabeth Romano, Jacob Cook is back to work after 14 months of fucking furlough.
Congrats,
I hate this
brother.
disease.
Congrats.
So Thomas Smith, Mother Jefferson's wig, Jacob Jake. No, that's Jake Jacob, sorry.
Mother Jefferson's
Rabbi Shmulovich is... Say again?
Mother Jefferson's wig. That has to be a Jefferson's reference. I love it.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rabbi Shmulovich.
We love him.
He's recovering from a car ran over his index finger. I don't know what this is.
How the hell you do that?
It's not a real person.
No,
it's not a real guy.
It'd be hard.
Liz Nice Slice Smith, Jennifer Riddell. Doug, let's go to a live show. What do you say? Tom Hale, happy Father's Day, obviously, from your favorite daughter, Madison Hale.
Happy Father's Day.
Hawk Glandorf. No, happy Father's Day. Did I say birthday?
You said Father's Day.
Okay, good. All right. Hawk Glandorf is headed to the Euro Cup. I don't know if he's a player or if he just wanted to go see it.
He's just going to see it? What's the Euro Cup?
I don't watch enough
soccer?
To recognize names.
What's going on over there? I don't know.
Cameron Maynard, Jordan Hoffman, Emily Rogers, Lisa Dunton, Brandy Gabori, Nemesai Ayin Davenport. I got Davenport right. Corey Cope, Bradley Biederman, Eric Dickskin.
Dickskin? Did you just call him Eric Dickskin?
I did.
He's going to get that now from others.
Forever. Stacy Clement, Ivan Gamboa, Mark Grossman, Courtney Reese, Ian Furman, I think, Don, Beeskazad, that's not right, Ida Sletter, I think it's Cider, John Helms, Kristen Miller, Lindsay Kriskowski, Kay with no last name, Alicia Lewis, Capo Dude, Sherry Shaw, Laura with no last name, Kelly Grismore, Annick Zadro, Bro, Katerina Matthey. What is this, Maddie? Matthey Horn? What? Travis Schaefer, Quinn Hickey, Shannon Flaherty, Ashley Fadden, sorry. Judith, no last name. Amy Garney, Andrew with no last name. Steven Salbo, infamous Dolly Mop, Tiffany Daniels, Marshall Biggs, Cassandra Maxwell, Allison Randall, Brianna Labrie, Kendra Johnson, Tyrell Cruz, Tam with no last name, Megan Scruggs, Samantha, no last name, Matthew Zaninovich.
Hey,
Trent Blair, Cole Lopez, Emily Degnan, Ryan Lally, Lindsay Griffin, Catherine, Didi, Diet. Jeff Williamson, Joseph McClure, Shelby with no last name, Alyssa Mulligan, Danny the Girl, Irene Karpenko, Luke Crow, Maddie Duck 75, not the 74, Corey Ortega, Mark Jackson, the coach, obviously,
the
Aaron Dixon. There's a guy on Letterkenny, they call him Dickskin, and I say it to my kids constantly, so now I can't see Dixon without saying Dickskin.
Dickskin?
It's what it is
now. My kids constantly. That's good. My 10-year-old girl loves it. She just loves it when I call her Dickskin. Get over here, Dickskin. It's very sweet.
I truly say we cook dinner and I go, baby, get the carrots out of the fridge. She goes, I don't want carrots. And I go, then what do you want? I want asparagus. Well, then get the asparagus, Dickskin. And I just call her Dickskin.
That's good. You don't offer her Dickskin. That's good. See, you're a good dad. You're just calling her
right to her face. Call my 10-year-old Dickskin. Cordell Pringle, Ashley Duvall, Josh Hover, Patrick Berquist, Wade Dreyer, Jenna Tuhey, I think, Paul Connors, Oscar Villarreal, Dr. Stapleton, Erica Allen, Lauren Conway, Wendy D, Dylan Merrill, Paris Clay, Jesse, no way, Seal Carlson. It's not going to happen.
No way.
Josh NG. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's just NG. Is that is it? Ing? Oh yeah, there was a serial killer. Ing. Yes.
Charles.
Laura Tannehill, Jeremy John, Alana with no last name. Also Drew with no last name. Probably same family, right?
Same family. Got the no last names from up at Bridgeport. We know them.
Troy Johnson, Derek Lozano, Joshua Birch, Heidi Sullivan, Nancy Burkert, Michael Hartzell, Heather Flo, Carrie Lyons, Amy Folsom, Kim with no last name, Shane Stone, Chris Menton, Chuck Anderson, Matt Amoros, Patrick Raymond, Tom Humphreys, Kirsten, Jan Smark, I don't know. Kyle Pender, guest, Nicholas Devon, Mr. Pitts, Zach Klingberg, Jared May, Caitlin Gordy, Nolene Furlong, no lean for long. Get it?
Gotcha.
You got it. Michelle Taylor, Sarah Tola, Valerie Zellner, Sam Wano, Stephen Hawk, Gretchen Gill, Lisa Ridgway, Kyle Kerber, Pamela Lesser, Chase Poe, Eric Voigt, Dylan Banfield, Ashley Marie Nabel, Sandra Aldridge, Michael Kuehl, Walker Mason, Madison Grout, Ben with no last name, Ryan Roller, Michael Orr, Lauren with no last name, Gianni Frio, Seth with no last name, Daryl Houston, Abby Kreutz, Jessica Dixon, Rudy Hernandez. How are there so many this week?
There's a lot of Dixons this week.
Melanie Fagan, Kevin Costa, Jane Bradley, Vanessa with no last name, Pippa, and also Tisa. Oh boy, that's so many E's. Matthew Hedden, Amanda Cerboni, Stewart, no last name, Paul Robert, Janine Reeser, Krista Tischler, Tiffany Solomon, Kathleen Justick, Kelsey Bertolis, Brooke Milto, Pat Ross, Nick Watson, Sophia Hamilton, Ricky Gator. If you're not in Florida, you're blowing it. Rebecca Richmond, Kenneth Bryan, Portia Ostler, Jared Watts, Mitchell Fisher. Oh, and Mitchell has 2 different Patreon accounts. Thank you, Mitchell. You're amazing.
Thank you
Ashley
so much
Turnbow,
for everything.
Chris Bailey, Matt and Nellie Zills, Ben Peterson, Cindy Sherrod, Derek Fleener, Sally Paulson, Philip McNutt, Jack Flowers, and Michelle, holy fuck, Butrimowitz.
Wow, nice.
I apologize, but I do thank you, every last one of you, and all of our patrons. You guys are fucking amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Honestly, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We really do appreciate it. You guys support the show. You Patreon and your PayPal people, you keep the show, you keep it going, you keep it on the tracks, and we just hope that you're enjoying the content because we put it out because we want you to like it a lot. So we really hope you're doing it.
It's really wild.
You give us a nickel and we're like, holy shit, we got to really work. We got to dance for that nickel. You know what I mean? We will dance for our dinner type of people. So we don't give a shit. So we'll do that. Thank you so much for supporting us. And Jimmie, what if they wanted to thank you for any support you might give them? How could they do it?
They've done it, and they continue to do it online on all social media forums. I appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you so much. Where can they find you?
Yeah, they can Google us. They know how to find us. You know how to find people. You Google name or show, and then it'll say these are the hosts, and it'll lead you to everything like that if you want to find us.
I'll bet you could type
easy.
in James Pietragallo address or Jimmie Whisman address, and it would be disgusting how easy it is to find where I live.
Sure fucking hope not. I hope
I
not.
wish I hadn't said that.
Yeah, that's not good. I will tell everybody, though, I keep a 3-foot razor sharp machete next to my bed and 250 pounds of dog. So to get to me.
And on the backside of that blade is a saw blade. It's
a very sharp saw blade. It's terrifying. It's terrifying. As Biggie once said, there's going to be a lot of slow singing and flower bringing if my Simply Safe alarm starts ringing. We'll put it that way. I'll put a plug in that shit. That said, thank you everyone so much for joining us on another wild, crazy edition of Crime and Sports. Can't wait for more, and we'll keep coming back every damn time, live from the Crime and Sports studios. We will see you next week.
Bye.
If you like Crime and Sports, you can listen early and ad-free now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts. Prime members can listen early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Before you go, tell us about yourself by filling out a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.
In the 1980s, a rosé swept the country.
Hey, Mike, I really like this White Zinfandel.
Well, good. Now put it down. I'm going to try another one.
White Zin became America's top-selling wine. But most don't know that this sweet drink has a sour history. What began in 1986 with counterfeit bottles.
A big fraud, a multi-million-dollar fraud.
Sent investigators chasing one of the most powerful families in the business, the Licciardis. But the closer the feds got to them, the more dangerous things became. It's a story of deceit.
At the time, I was paranoid.
Threats.
You touch my kids, I will kill you.
And murder.
With a .22 caliber bullet to the head.
What started with a scheme to mislabel wine spilled into a blood-soaked battle for succession. Welcome to Bloodvines. You can binge listen to Bloodvines exclusively and ad-free on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.